Hello everyone, it's time for Superhero Rewind Unscripted. I am your host, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my sidekick, Austin, and we're back with the Unscripted moniker because it's time for another lengthy series of lists, although I guess the last thing we did like this wasn't lists, but it was a list of years, Austin. It's been a few months now, and we're doing this a little bit later than we originally hoped to. We spent some time finalizing our list. We were working on some other stuff, but finally we're back doing this again. And Austin and I spent Austin, was it like a year maybe on the history videos?
It definitely felt like it. That's what, like a 20-hour thing?
Yeah, and I still haven't done the supercut for that. I need to do that. It's going to take forever to render that, but I have every intention of doing that. Anyway, so Austin and I did, what was that, 12 parts on...
Something like that. Because I offered to do the supercut, and you were like, oh, it'll take this long to render. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do that.
You have a laptop and nothing else, and you go to school. There's no chance you are making that video. Like, I appreciate it, but it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, there's no way.
So, yeah, we did our impromptu discussion on the history of superhero movies, and we enjoyed doing that so much that we were kicking around ideas for another series like that, and we landed on our top 100 favorite superhero films of all time, which is a list video I meant to make years ago on the scripted Superhero Rewind series and just never got to it. It was one of those kind of bucket list items, and an obvious thing to do, certainly, but I thought it would be kind of fun to do our definitive favorites as opposed to what, so there's the distinction here, as opposed to what we think are maybe the, like, absolute best cream of the crop superhero movies as far as, like, story and execution and such. So I'm putting this under the Superhero Rewind moniker, but it's my criteria with this is a little bit different than the way we've been ranking them on the Commentary Project show. And so don't hold us to that ranking because we will break it all day long. The criteria, if there is any, is very different here. These are movies that Austin and I each find most enjoyable. And Austin, the way I did this, by and large, and actually I had to kick a couple things off because I decided that this was more or less what I wanted the point of this to be for me, is movies that I most wouldn't mind throwing in the player and watching right this moment.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's a good way to figure that out.
Which made the ranking very different from what it might have been otherwise. Because there are movies that, I'll tell you right now, there are movies that on the old Rewind scale would get a 1.5 or a 2 that will be much higher than you would think that they would be.
Basically what Cap is saying is that he's allowed to put 89 at number 1 despite it clearly not being number 1 on the Rewind list.
I might have to mix some things up now. I don't know.
I gave it away. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not going to give away what my number 1 is, but it might not be what you expect. It may be what you expect. We'll find out.
The thumbnail, it's I don't know why I said that so weard. Thumbnail.
The thumbnail.
Judging by the thumbnail, it's clearly Iron Man 2 is your number 1.
Yeah, you need to stop making predictions because they're all gonna. I was gonna say they're all gonna come true. Somehow Iron Man and 89 will tie for the top spot.
Mm-hmm. The shocker ending.
You'll never see it coming.
Okay, so Iron Man 3 is also in the triple tie.
Okay, so the other big difference with the history videos is I'm not going to time this one. We'll probably max out at about 2 hours for each of these, but I decided not to limit us to an hour so that we had a better chance of getting through this a lot faster than the history videos, because we're doing a really fun interactive component this time. which we got from another recent project we did. We've been really busy with streams lately on the channel. Recently, for those of you that haven't seen it, we did a community list of Geekvolution's favorite DC and Marvel superheroes, and Austin and I and Jason still have to count down our favorite Marvels. We'll try to do that pretty soon, but we've been doing some new movie reviews on Monday, so we'll find a time soon to do that last one. But we decided to do that with this as well. So there is already a Google form set up. I've posted it in a couple places already, but you can find it in the link in the description of this video, and you can also find it on the community tab, and you can make your own top 50. We didn't want to ask people to do 100 because 100 is difficult, and even me, having done this for 15 years, was not the easiest thing deciding what 100 should be. Of course, I could come up with that many movies, but coming up with that many that I like enough to say I'll go sit down and watch this right now. I was talking to John today, and even John was like, I don't know if I can come up with 100. So we went 50, and also let me just say, just like with the DC and Marvel characters list, if you can't think of 50 that you love, you don't have to rank 50. You could do 34. You could do 15. Totally up to you. You're just giving movies points, and that will manipulate. You'll have a chance at manipulating what the community list will be.
When speaking of John, he could only put in 25 for his top 50 Marvel, and everyone should boo him for being an X-Men fan and also not being able to name 50.
Yeah, that's a good point. You should be able to do all just X-Men characters.
Yeah, I can name 50 X-Men just off the back of my hand.
Just right now. Look, we don't have time for that, Austin. We don't have time.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. But everyone boo John for that.
I will say there's a part of me that wants to milk everything for what it's worth and come in at some point and do another stream where I just make you actually do that as a challenge and see how long it takes you to do.
I mean, it wouldn't be hard at all. I could do that in like 30 seconds.
We don't have time, Austin. We can't do that right now. We should do that at some point. 30 seconds. We'll have a 30-second stream. Good night, everybody. Okay, now, Cap, do it with Star Trek characters. Go. Do it with, well, that's easy. Do it with Enterprise characters. Oh, God.
No, it'll be a challenge. We both have to name 50 X-Men or Star Trek characters, and whoever does it the fastest wins.
The other one gets a hand chopped off or something?
Well, I was just going with one of them wins, but
okay.
if you want to play for keeps.
Just knowing you, I thought that was going to get real morbid real quick, and then I went there, and you didn't. It was very wholesome on your end. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into our list here pretty soon. I don't know, of course, in a couple of hours how many we'll get through. Suffice it to say, you will not find out if my number one is 89 this evening. Almost certainly. Is there any chance that we truck that fast, Austin, where you do the whole thing in 2 hours?
There's no way. I think I said to you before, I feel like we can get through 25. I don't even know if we can hit 50.
I don't know if we can do 25. I bet. I mean, I think it's safe to say we'll get through at least 20.
At least, yeah. No, 25 is like a very liberal guess.
I think it is too.
There's a chance we get through 5.
But this will be a lot of fun. So yes, there's a very good chance we get through at least 5. We're not gonna play this the way we have been with the DC and Marvel characters. We are gonna go back and forth on this one instead of one person counting down his entire list, of course. Otherwise, it'll just be one of us for several weeks and then the other one for several weeks. So we're not gonna. I mean, if we did it that way, it would probably go a lot faster. But I think we'll have a more fun discussion going back and forth like this. And we are gonna take our time on this. We are treating this like a Rewind podcast episode. Welcome everybody in the comments right now. We've got a nice crowd. Appreciate you guys. And once again, let me just finish the thought I was making earlier with the community list. You're going to have as long as it takes us to get through this to get your list in, and you can edit it at any time. So if you put it in and you're not happy with something, or if one of us maybe brings up something you forgot about in one of these streams, or you watch a movie and it changes where your ranking is, Austin has had that over the last several weeks, feel free to go back in and edit your list in Google Drive, Google Form, which I guess is part of Drive, right?
You can see it in the Drive. I don't know. It's all Google.
Okay, cool. It's like, yeah, it's all interconnected.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes that's nice, sometimes that's not. But yeah, we've got a real nice group of folks here, and they're gonna get really sick of my preamble. So we better go ahead and jump right into this.
Turns out this 2 hours is not even going to be any ranking. It's
No,
just going
it's
to
just
be
gonna be me
preamble.
explaining how lists work.
We have
Shut
to do
up, Austin.
we have to do the video essay thing, like, oh, lists were invented back in, and then you go all the way back, and you go, but before even that, we have to explain the
And then
dawn
you do
of
another half an
communication.
hour on the history of superhero movies, even though we already did a 12-part stream series on that. Well, the first superhero movie, debatably. All right, who wants to start? Well, should we? I mean, I don't want to do too much more preamble, but I guess real quick, are there any stipulations or anything that we should that we should mention with this? I went exclusively based on which this is a pretty liberal list, but on our official letterboxed list for what counts on Superhero Rewind, the Superhero Rewind commentary project, as a superhero movie. So some of those are very debatable, but they're all things that we're saying we have to do a commentary on before we can say we've done everything. So things like Sin City are on that list. Things like Dick Tracy are on that. There are some things that are debatably maybe not superhero movies, but they all count potentially for this ranking.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think we both were kind of looking at that list, and if anyone wants to see it for their thing, maybe I can send it to you, Cap, and you can put it in the chat, but or not chat, but description.
No, I can do it.
But
I can pull it up myself.
oh, okay, but just
I
look up the Day Ghost on Letterboxd, and you'll be able to see it in my lists.
Yeah, and I didn't copy and paste my normal Superhero Rewind description. I should have, because it's in there. We would have just had it already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know
didn't
if you
know
know
you
that, but
had it.
I've always got that in the description so people can see it.
Yeah, I didn't. What's a good thing, when we first started doing this, after we made the list, I contemplated like taking things out as we did them, and I'm glad that I ultimately decided against that.
Yeah, because I would have probably had some things in it, maybe that wouldn't count at that point.
Hmm.
Let me just go ahead and get this link in here real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I definitely had a hard time making this list, where I think I stalled out at like 80, and then had to make a mad dash. And I was gonna watch more things today. Like, there's certain things that maybe would have made my list if I had a chance to see them, but I had to call like okay, we're done. I watched 9 superhero movies between Monday and Tuesday, and when
Oh
I
my
woke up
lord.
today, I was like, okay, I'm a little burnt out. I don't know if I can go through more.
Are you burnt out enough that it's gonna suck to have to talk about them?
No, not at all. It was more so just like I don't know if I can watch more right this second.
And then you got to turn around and do Multiverse of Madness for our show on Friday.
It's gonna be
You got to
madness.
watch another one. Here we go. It's all superhero movies all the time here on Geekvolution. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that disclaimer too. That some things on your list are things that you like. You did a lot of homework that you finally saw that you hadn't. I obviously knew a lot more of these than you did because of all the reviews I've done in the past. But there are some movies on my list because I did not have a chance to do as much watching of things I hadn't seen or rewatching. There's not much I've not seen. There's some independent stuff here and there that I hate to say I would be really shocked if some of those things cracked my list. But I mean there might have been. So I will say it's not like either of us have seen every single thing that exists, but we've seen a lot. So like we're as qualified as anybody, of course, to do a list like this. But there will be some things that we've not seen. And also there's stuff that is on my list that I have not seen in a long time that I just did not have a chance to go back and watch. And if I did, it's possible it would have changed where it wound up in the ranking.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I have some of that, of course, too. Um, there's certain things that I did have a chance to rewatch, and that really affected its rating. But a lot of them, I was like, I feel like I know this well enough. Like, I don't know if it would really change.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad because there's a couple things where I'll be like, okay, this is on my list. I remember really liking this. I can't talk a lot about it right now. It's just been so long.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But like I said, I rewatched a few things, but I didn't get to go back to everything. And I keep wanting to mention things, but I don't want to give anything away yet. Without further ado, we're gonna get right into it, and I would love to hear Austin's 100. So if you were like me, Austin, the bottom five were the hardest.
Oddly enough, my bottom five, I'm just looking at it now, were already there. It was just like I needed things to go in to kind of bump it down. And I had more, like, there's even things that were below it in my bottom five that I'm kind of happy got knocked off as I went along.
Yeah, well, and we had different experiences with this a little bit because I didn't struggle to come up with 100 as much as it sounded like you did. Although when I made my initial list, I was surprised when I counted like 88, and I still had to come up with 12 more. Where I was like, I thought I could rattle off 100 off the top of my head, and I did not quite get to that. I had to write my brain a little bit more and look at a list to make sure I wasn't missing some stuff.
No, I thought it would be a lot easier than it was, and then I hit like 80, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I don't love superhero movies as much as I thought I did. I can't even name 100 that I love."
I agonized for a good solid half an hour, 45 minutes on my bottom five. Maybe to bottom 10, where there's a bunch of stuff that I took in and out of the bottom of that list, and I'm still not super comfortable with it. But we'll talk about some of the runners up, I'm sure, when we get finished with the entire series.
I don't really have that many, so yeah.
Yeah, because I'm looking at a list of another 20.
Oh wow, okay. I think I
Yeah.
have like three.
So it was so difficult to decide what should go on and what shouldn't, and it became pretty arbitrary. So like I would say the top 80 are not at all arbitrary, but after that, all bets were kind of off. Where there were another 40 that I could have shuffled in and out. But again, this has been my living for 15 years.
Yeah, and I feel like for me, it's more in the middle, where like there's a middle section that could go anywhere.
Oh, interesting.
hmm
Okay, well, we're gonna finally start ranking these things. Apologies for how long I take to get a stream started. Austin, uh, let's hear what your number 100 is. I can't wait. Now my prediction is both of us will have not very good movies on our 100 with amusing justifications for why.
Well, remember how I said there would be things I have to justify why they're on my list? My number 100 is where I have to justify them.
Matthew Bay says at this point it should just be called Comic Book Rewind, but that's not accurate though, because there's lots of comic book movies that we would not do on Superhero Rewind.
Yeah, like I watched Old Boy a few months ago, and I was like, I wish I could include it, but it's not technically a superhero movie. It's just a comic book.
Yeah, like A History of Violence, that's not going to be on Superhero Rewind. Like
Yeah,
Wanted, well, actually maybe Wanted is on the list.
Wanted is on the
Maybe
list.
Is Red on the list?
Yeah,
Is R.I.P.D. on the list?
that I don't remember.
I hope not. He's a piece
It
of
might
crap.
be
I can
because
tell you
Men
right
in
now,
Black
that's
is.
not on my top 100.
It might be because Men in Black is, but I don't know. I think we debated about Red
Oh, Men
on.
in Black should not be on the list.
Oh,
I've
okay.
never counted that for Rewind.
Well, maybe Men in Black isn't on
Yeah,
the
I don't
list.
think it is. If it is, it would be on my top 100, and I'm vetoing that outright. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
want to include.
It's
Men
not in my
Black.
top 100.
That
So.
makes no sense as a superhero movie.
Mhm.
Like if that's a superhero thing, X Files is like that just doesn't make any sense.
No, for sure, for sure.
Anyway, this is an argument that we will go round and round on until the end of time, and I don't mean me and you. I mean everybody that cares about this stuff. We'll never come to a consensus. Real quick, when we finish this whole series, I want to come back at some point, if not immediately after, and do a bottom 50.
Yeah, no, that would be good. I'm dreading that because I'm gonna have to watch some stuff.
Oh no! I think that'll be easier for me. We won't do a bottom 100 because at some point you end up with all the middle of the road stuff, and that gets weird. We'll just do 50 for that, but I do want to do that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Dan's dead.
Uh,
If Men in Black is a superhero movie, so is Ghostbusters. Exactly, and it's not. Like, stop it.
yeah.
We're not. We're just not going there. Okay, Austin, give me. Sorry. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say I also at some point was gonna do a top 100 best casting choices on my channel and didn't, but I have that written on my phone. So if we ever do that, I already have my list.
Oh, casting choices.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know you did that at one point.
I'd be
Like,
fine to revisit that. That would be the third time I visited it, but there've been a lot of movies since then.
mhm,
So like that's yeah, I'm totally cool with it. I love these list things. I think it's
yeah.
really fun, and it's a way to keep the like unscripted moniker going since we don't do reviews here anymore. We're doing that in the commentaries. Austin, we're 20 minutes in. What is your number 100?
Okay, here's the big thing I have to fight for being superhero movies. My number 100 is G.I. Joe the movie because Transformers and G.I. Joe are too. There's too much Marvel DNA in both of their creations for me not to see them as superhero adjacent in the way that a lot of things are, like Sin City and things like that. For me, the big thing with GI Joe is that it's just Shield and Hydra, and a lot of that stuff is there in Transformers as well. And I can already see you're like, but
Well, I just don't like the precedent it sets, is all.
no. And here's the thing.
Because as
I
soon as you do that, now people are going to want that to count for
I'm
rewind.
not gonna
And
fight for it to count on Rewind, but I will fight for it to count on my top 100.
okay, I think that's cheating, but whatever.
Fair enough. I don't know. I'm a big fan of both of these properties, and
No, that's cool. But does that mean now that like just random Transformers movies show up in your list? Like,
I have two.
okay, all right.
It's like I said, you weren't gonna be happy about it, but it's too. You'll never be able to win me on them not being superhero adjacent. So like, it's too much in what I think of as being the genre. I'm glad I got it out of the way first.
Yeah, I guess. I'm just saying I don't want to spend a lot of time arguing about it. It's just like you couldn't come up with 100 without going to that stuff. Like,
No, because it was just already there. Like I said, like to me, that just is that. It wasn't like, oh, I couldn't come up with 100. I have to include these.
okay,
Uh,
yeah, I've never counted that stuff.
no, fair enough.
It's my show, god damn it. No, the whole like I don't know, like you said, it's superhero adjacent before it's superhero. When you get into stuff like Shield and all that, the only reason that stuff counts is because it's in a world that already has superheroes in it.
Mhm.
GI Joe does not,
No,
and
but like,
Transformers does not.
no, but we also go to a lot of superhero places with them. So like it also fills in a lot of those things.
Well, and to be fair, those are not properties that I know. Well, GI Joe certainly I know nothing about. Like I could not
Mhm.
care less. Transformers
No,
I've
of
at least
course.
spent a little bit of time with, and yeah, like that doesn't exist without Marvel and doesn't start in comics, but might as well. I mean, like it's
Hmm. I mean, well, GI Joe technically not, but like that iteration of both Transformers and GI Joe do start at Marvel. Hasbro is like,
no, I know, I
here
know.
are designs, make up ideas for these.
But all I'm saying is they existed because they're action figure like they came up with a toy line and they said go make these comics. So technically they don't start in comics; they start as figures, but they're released simultaneously. So
No, exactly. But like
that's
all of the
quibbling over
DNA,
semantics. But
yeah, exactly. And all of the DNA of their creation and what those characters are and what their stories are, there's too much Marvel DNA in it for me to not see them as adjacent. Which is why something like a Conan doesn't count, because Marvel isn't part of creating the idea of Conan.
yeah, but then at some point, what we get into is like how much do you want to argue creation of something and how much do you want to argue, like you said, like what the DNA of it is, because you could also make a case for Conan as like a proto superhero, and we have a lot of that kind of stuff
I mean,
that we
yeah,
count, and like I think the Conan movies we count as things to do on Rewind.
they're not.
Are they not?
No.
Okay, see, I honestly could almost see that even over a GI Joe, but
Oh,
I don't-
okay. See, I
but I
don't
don't
have
know.
that, but fair enough.
Well, and also you got to understand that some of it is just my ignorance. Some of this is just like my knowing what these things are without actually knowing a lot about them. So
No,
like,
of course.
so you have actually a better leg to stand on. It's just for 15 years I've never counted these things in my list. So it's really just this arbitrary thing of they've never been on the list. Now all of a sudden Austin is counting of them.
And like I said, I will not fight for us to do them because I get it. But like, for me to make a list, I count them. Fight amongst about this in the comments, people. Go for it. But I'm glad I at least front loaded it so that I could get that out of the way.
Yeah. Okay. I'm struggling to fully understand that, but
Yeah, fair enough.
I guess I should ask like why you included it. Like we're just spending too much time arguing about whether it should be there, but like why? Like why? Like why did you mean? I've never seen those. I do not know anything about that stuff.
So G.I. Joe the movie is not as good as Transformers the movie, but it's really fun. It's really weird. I think of like I mentioned the kind of Shield versus Hydra thing of it. That movie invents like a Cobra Wakanda that they all come from, where they're all secretly snake people, and it's really crazy. And Burgess Meredith is the villain. He's basically the Unicron of that movie, where we invent a new villain for the movie, and he's pretty fun. And
they should have also put Leonard Nimoy in that.
They should have. That would have been
awesome. Great. He's just like Unicron.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that was a movie I'd never seen until last year because the new comics are building really heavily on it, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" So I watched that movie, and it's pretty good, and it's free on YouTube.
So is that? I don't know. I guess I'm asking you this, and maybe another one will show up. But like, is that better or worse than like either of the other things they've made?
For me, I like the other two more.
Okay.
Which is like a hot take, I know, but I don't know. I think those movies are fine. Like none of them are exceptional or anything, but they're okay.
Yeah, I just you know me, like I don't like military stuff, so I've never seen the appeal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, it's like a mix of James Bond and just like comic booky stuff, where it's like you have like a team of basically like super people and like ninjas and things, and it's like, oh, okay, you like add the comic bookness to a military idea, and I don't know, I really like that stuff.
See, again, I'm just completely ignorant about this. Like all I've ever seen is just aesthetics, is like figures in commercials, and it all looks real bland to me. Like I want things to be more colorful than that, right? So so like it just looks like boring military stuff. So like when you tell me like people with powers and stuff, I didn't even know that. Like I thought it was just boring.
No, they all have like
stuff.
their individual costumes, like the X-Men. Like it's not just like they're all in like camo or something. That's maybe some.
Isn't it all green and black though? Like
not really, no.
Okay.
Like some characters do that are like more military-y, but no, for the most part they have like a range. Like it's more like Suicide Squad-y than it is like, I don't know, Commando.
Well, you know me, I don't like care that much about that either, but
yeah.
No, but Renegade, the game company, has done a G.I. Joe miniatures game with the exact same. They've tweaked it, but with the same system that the Power Rangers board game is in, and they fit together. You can play them together. And I haven't bought any of the G.I. Joe stuff because they just don't look fun to paint to me. Like I can't get excited about. I'm like, well, with Power Rangers, I've got all these different colors, but G.I. Joe, like when I look at other people's paint jobs with that, all I'm seeing is black and green and maybe blue. Like I'm not seeing any colors.
Mm-hmm. No, fair enough. But I don't know. It's like it's the not as cool Transformers thing to be into with Hasbro. They keep failing to make it work.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and throw out my 100, which is absolutely a not good movie that I decided ultimately I liked too much not to put on the list, and it jumped in and out. Just constantly. In fact, I didn't even, I say constantly, in the last, like, hour I was working on this, but I didn't even think to put it here until today. And that, Austin, and I'll be curious to see if this shows up on your list, because I know you had a lot of fun when I showed you this for the first time. But I included Superman 4.
Oh, of course it did. I love Superman 4. It's the last really good Superman movie.
Superman 4 is a terrible looking movie. They had like $1.50 to make that film, and it was super misguided on Christopher Reeve's part, but uh, it is a kind of a big part of my childhood. It's the first movie I saw in the theater. I have really positive, vivid memories watching that when I was a kid, and a lot of scenes stick with me. And I still occasionally go back and look at it because it is like, for me, arguably entertaining. And Nuclear Man is hilarious,
Oh, he's so good.
and the whole
He's
thing
so
is just
quotable.
wonderfully over the top and preposterous. And I've always loved the lightning effects in that movie,
Yeah.
and the sound effect that he makes when he's walking, and then pounding Superman into the moon. Like, how do you exclude a movie that has that?
How do you exclude a movie that has Nuclear Man go, "I will hurt people"?
No, it's great. Like, he's got Lex Luthor's voice in his mouth,
Yeah.
so that actor didn't even get to voice his own character.
Yeah, but like also genuinely, that's like the last real Superman movie. Where it's just, here's Superman.
Yeah, sadly, that's true. And I mean, Superman 3 is sort of that, but in some ways, Superman 3 is weirder than 4.
Yeah, I don't like three.
Yeah.
Three is the only one of the original four I don't like. I like aspects of it.
Yeah,
Like I
same
like when we
here.
go to Smallville. Christopher Reeve is great in that. The evil Superman stuff is really fun. It's just really bogged down by the Richard Pryor stuff.
Yeah, and the villain is just a really boring mogul guy.
hmm
And why would you do that when you already had Lex Luthor, who is in those not a mogul but would like to be, but is like charismatic and funny, and like even if that's not what you want from Lex Luthor, it's really sad to have kind of like a Gene Hackman light, and not even but a guy that's not even trying to be over the top or funny or anything. But I don't know. You take the scene that everybody loves from that movie with Superman fighting himself out of context, and you show that to a person, and you would assume that is a cool movie. Like, legitimately, that scene of the junkyard is so good, you would not even imagine what the rest of that movie looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
It drives me crazy. But yeah, Superman 4 is hysterical. It is unfortunate that it because of the Lenny kid, it gave us CW Lex Luthor.
That's what I was gonna say.
I wish that hadn't happened,
It
but
gave us Ducky Luthor, who then became Lex Luthor later on.
Ducky Luthor?
That's good. His character in Pretty in Pink is named Ducky, so I just call him Ducky Luthor.
Matthew Bass, Superman 4 is a really fun B movie. It is.
Yeah, 100%.
Connor, Superman 4 is a solid B movie. It's crap, but it's entertaining and is an interesting look into an era and kind of movie that doesn't get made anymore. That's a terrific point, yeah. And that's probably why I have so much nostalgia for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the perfect movie to just watch with friends and be like, this is such a fun time.
Based on your recommendation and what some people are saying in the comments, maybe I will finally watch a G.I. Joe movie. Maybe I will finally do that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's probably not the place to start, though, right?
It probably isn't, but
I know there's supposed to be really good G.I. Joe comics. I'm just worried my eyes will glaze over.
That is the big thing for me. Is G.I. Joe is more of a comic book property than anything else. The Larry Hama stuff's great, and I'm really liking the new stuff.
It would be interesting to read some of that kind of along with Sergeant Fury, and just kind of see how they compare.
No, it would be interesting.
Okay, we get to number 99 now.
Yes. So, I don't know, maybe like 2 months ago, I went to my mom's a few times, over like 2 months, and every time I was over there, we would watch like 2 or so MCU movies.
This cat is turning into a guest star on this program.
I know, she's going crazy. I don't know. My mom's really nostalgic about when COVID first hit, and I was quarantined there with them, and her and I blew through the entire MCU. So she's constantly like, "Oh, we should redo that. Let's watch more of them." And so it gave me a chance to rewatch a few of them. And one of those early MCU movies shot way up, and the other one shot kind of down to 99, which is The Incredible Hulk.
Wow.
Uh, yes, a movie that was not okay, not as good as I remembered. But like it's fun.
Is that cat gonna turn into a monster? Are there gonna be like tentacles that come out of its mouth?
100%. That's gonna be the doomsday.
We're gonna find out. What is that from Captain Marvel? A flurkin?
Flurkin.
Flurkin. That's what it is.
Because you get that Nick Fury where he goes, "Mother Flurkin."
Oh, that's right. Just to get that in there.
Yeah.
DJ is there in the comments. He says COVID nostalgia is wild. It sure is.
It is wild, yeah.
Isn't that
brings
odd?
it up constantly.
To me, that was still
remember
last
all
weekend.
the fun we had during quarantine? And I'm like, oh yeah.
I still remember driving in my car. No kidding. A week before, you guys won't believe me, but I'm not making this up. A week before we find out about the COVID virus, I was watching like Walking Dead or something, and or had been, and I'm driving around, and I'm just imagining the world suddenly shutting down. And I was like, wouldn't it be weird if we lived in a world where I'm driving around and I'm not supposed to be outside? And then a week later, that happens.
Caused it.
I'm not kidding. Yes, it's my fault. Anyway, apologies. Talk about The Incredible Hulk.
No, it's okay. Incredible Hulk is a movie where you can tell they like ripped out a lot of the great character work, and it kind of works despite that. I really like the cast in that. Norton is probably my favorite Bruce Banner and Hulk. The end fight I think is really fun with Abomination. The Abomination design sucks, but it's a very comic booky fight. Like they bring out moves from Ultimate Destruction, and that's always a good time.
Did they legitimately do that on purpose?
Oh, 100%.
That's great.
Because the big thing is the car hands.
Okay.
That he does in that movie, and that was like one of the big moves.
I never put that together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of that stuff is really fun when you're watching it, and you just kind of have to put up with the fact that it's not an especially great or thoughtful character piece.
No, but God, it wants to be.
Yes.
Like you said, and it certainly has the mood and atmosphere for a thing that ought to be.
That's the other thing is it's perfect tone for the Hulk.
Yeah, and you
we
can't
never
even
got
say
back
it's
to that.
taking itself too seriously. It's like the movie is, but the script's not, if that makes any sense. Like, it doesn't even feel pretentious. It's like the script wants so badly to live up to the production, it just can't. And I still say one of the best and most important scenes was cut out of the movie, which probably immediately jumps it up for me. How do you lose the suicide thing? I will never stop complaining about that with that movie. I can't deal with it.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
Like, it's so important.
Yeah, I wish we could have a director's cut of that movie, because I feel like there is a cut of that movie that is one of the best superhero movies ever made, and we never got to see it.
Well, and that's the version that certainly should have continued. And like, no offense to I can't think of names tonight. Ruffalo.
Oh, Ruffalo.
Because I like what he starts with, okay, but even there, I'm like, they've reinvented this character, and I liked what he was like, and he just seemed more straight off the page, and Ruffalo's kind of reinventing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I also really like Tim Roth as Abomination. I wish he, could have been more like that when he becomes Abomination, but I do really like him throughout that movie. He's one of, maybe not a top 10 MCU villain at this point, but like, I don't know, like maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, he was more so in that range.
It's nice we've gotten some more decent ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because even in the later phases, in some not great movies, you've still had some okay villains.
Why do you want to just be in front of the camera now? She keeps trying to get onto the table.
She really wants to be a streamer.
Yeah.
She's like, hand me a controller. I want to stream games.
She's like, no, you guys don't get it. YouTube is about cats. This needs to be a funny cat video.
Nicholas Bodo, was the Suicide scene, I keep wanting to say squad, removed because they thought it was too dark for the second Marvel movie? I
I'm not
It's just
sure, to
been
be
too long
honest.
since I reviewed it and studied all of that. I probably talk about that in my rewind for it, because there was a justification for losing it. I don't think it was any kind of censorship thing. I think they just decided that they didn't need it, but I could be wrong about that.
Oh, you know what? You just said that, and it just clicked in. I remember why. Um, the way that movie does
There's
open,
going to be a lot of this. We're talking about so many different movies.
the way that movie does open is they like flash through the origin, and that was supposed to be mixed throughout, and test audiences really didn't like that. And then I think they also didn't like that it opened in such a dark way. So
Okay.
they went, okay, let's just take this, put it as a montage at the beginning so you get it, and then take like axe that. I think that's what it was.
So they didn't do it because Feige didn't look at it and go, "Oh no, it's not light enough for the movies we're trying to make." It was audiences weren't responding to it, and so they were afraid. And you can sympathize with that, even if you wish they'd stuck to their guns. Where it's like it's their second movie, they're trying not to lose people, and they're taking some decent risks with that in making it not line up exactly in tone with Iron Man, making it a lot bleaker of a piece. I mean, the thing, and I was going to say this a minute ago, that I most respect about that movie is that it feels absolutely like it can exist in the same world as Iron Man and is not that the feel of that film at all.
No, absolutely. Well, I think they also struggled with not like were also post that first Hulk movie that people didn't like, that was more, or maybe not more so, but like trying to be more character focused. It's been a long time, so I don't want to be like, that movie was super character driven, because I don't really remember it super well.
You mean the '03 Hulk, or?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people didn't respond to that, so I think that was also on their mind.
Yeah, it sort of is, and then it loses all of that in the third act. But I think another thing, and I don't want to spend too long reviewing each of these, of course, but another thing I feel like we'd be remiss in not mentioning is just Liv Tyler is really good in that.
She is, yeah. I probably prefer Jennifer Connelly in that role, but Liv Tyler's also really good.
Well, and it's all, you're also comparing couples, or at least I am, as opposed to just like individual actresses. Where I think Connelly works better with, has better chemistry with that Bruce Banner than Liv Tyler does with the one that we get in Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, absolutely.
It helps that they had with that movie they'd already, or no, did they do that before A Beautiful Mind comes out? I think Hulk was first, and then they do A Beautiful Mind.
Oh, weird. Okay, I would have guessed it would be the other way around.
Me too, but I think the date I'm remembering for A Beautiful Mind is, no, I'm wrong. That's earlier. It's like 99 or 2000 maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they are definitely cast together because of that movie. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. I got 1,000 things swirling in my brain right now, so there might be some inaccuracies. The history thing was easier because we're moving forward on a track, and this is going to be, grasping at different periods all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your 99, Cap?
My number 99 is is on this list because nobody else is going to put this movie on their list, or at least very few would. And I went real back and forth on this. This was another one that I absolutely agonized over. And I'm going to say it, and I'm not going to defend it, folks. It's just how I feel about it. I did, in fact, include the Marvels.
Wow, okay.
Yes, I did.
I didn't expect that at all.
I enjoyed it. I can't defend it.
The Marvels.
I can't defend. I'm not gonna defend it. I feel like the chemistry with those three actresses is really solid in that, and it's deeply flawed. It's not great. It's got all kinds of problems. But I saw it in the theater. Was surprised I liked it. Nobody else seemed to, and then I went again before we reviewed it, and I doubled down. I was like, no, I'm still actually really enjoying this, and like I said, a lot of it is just the blend of those three actresses together, and the girl playing Kamala Khan is so good that it's not fair she got Disney Plus. Like she should have started in a movie. And probably that movie does better instantly if she had gotten a film in the first place, because people liked her show okay. I only watched about half of it and I kind of lost interest, but I always thought she was really good in it. And if I don't think that movie would have bombed had it been a film. Like I think if she was on the big screen, even with kind of a similar story and just a real typical kind of Spider-Man-esque origin thing, I think it would have done fine. And I think interest in her would have carried the momentum of that movie. It's got all kinds of issues. The third act has a really stupid, gigantic plot hole that irritated the crap out of me. And I've not gone back to it. That was a movie that I was hoping to rewatch before this to see if it would fall off my list. But I was like, no. I mean, am I partly doing this because I'm wanting to get a rise out of people? I mean, I don't think that's what I'm doing.
No, you have to justify why The Marvels is a superhero movie, Cap.
Oh, I do.
No,
Well, I mean, they got superpowers and they're in costumes, Austin.
Okay, you got me. No, The Marvels did not make my list, but The Marvels also would not make my bottom 50. Like The Marvels is in that area. It's better than the first Captain Marvel, I think, just because it's not as boring. But I don't know. I wasn't really jazzed on that, but fair enough. You gotta
but you didn't
like what you like.
Like a lot of people absolutely hated it, and I also get why it bombed. Like they didn't market that movie right. I was, and here's the thing. Sometimes your standards will be so in the floor that you get real surprised by something. I expected to absolutely loathe that movie. Like when I'm looking at the trailers and it looks like just the stupid Freaky Friday thing. I was like, oh god, we're gonna have to watch a whole movie where they're just like switching places constantly. And they actually kind of had some fun with that in the way it was shot, which surprised me. And it wasn't the whole movie, which was nice. And I liked Captain Marvel better in that, like a lot better than I did in her movie. And I liked just kind of the didn't give a crap attitude that she had through that. I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I think that's another movie where there's things that need to be in it that aren't. Like there needs to be more character work that we don't get. Like I remember Monica and Carol's dynamic feeling like it was lacking real meat, where we kind of
absolutely
that.
No, it was pretty flimsy.
Yeah, I agree. I also liked Carol Danvers more in that movie than I did her first movie, but like I'm still not won over. I like Monica about the same as I did in WandaVision, and I liked her there. And
I had been looking forward to seeing her finally be a Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and Kamala Khan, I've yet to find a version that I don't find annoying, so she's accurate.
Yeah, well, and she still has that, fangirling, like, is an MCU fan thing, but it's oddly toned down from what it sometimes is in the comics, and especially that Avengers game, which was just insufferable. I played 2 hours of that, and I've not gone back, mostly because of that.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I've not gone back to it.
I mean, you don't have to justify it to me. Like, yeah, go for it. The
singing scene is stupid. I mean, I get it, folks. Like, I also appreciated how short it was, and people complained about that too, where it was like, we'll see they gutted it real hard, or they didn't have like enough to work with. They can't justify a whole movie out of this. I thought it was refreshing to have a real simple, kind of fun throwaway story like that, which the MCU is sort of scared of. Like, everything's got to be an event.
Yeah, no, that's true. My issue with the singing scene is that I don't think they're really committed to it. It's like, it's very half-assed. Like, if you're going to do a musical planet, do a musical planet.
I know. I'm with you. I mean, there's this Power Rangers episode in, I want to say it's like second season, where the Rangers get infected with this like magic virus that just makes them sing everything, and they didn't write anything. They just go around like making up like melodies for their scripted dialogue, and it's awful. And like it watched like that. I was like, what are we doing?
They just walk around. It's like, I need to speak to the prince. Da-da. And then the prince comes in, and she's like, Prince, I gotta warn you about, and he's like, I can speak English, it's fine, just speak normally to me. Like, oh, okay. Well, we're done with that idea.
So yeah, there were 18 other movies that could have made this spot, and I will eventually read them to you because I had a tough time with that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, very good.
Go ahead, Austin. What's your 98 or 97
Uh,
now? Where are we at?
98. Sorry,
98.
I'm looking because I'm on Letterboxd. I have a private list, and it's like a little annoying because there are two-parters that I'm counting as one, so it's like
Oh, sure.
that annoying
I
thing.
went ahead and
But
just wrote mine out, but yeah.
yeah, no, fair enough. My 98 is Batman: The Long Halloween.
Which I've not gone back to since it came out.
Nor have I, and there is a chance I go back to it and I'm like, oh, this isn't great. There's a reason it's near the bottom. There are things that it changes about the mystery that I really liked, at least on a first viewing.
Same here.
My biggest issue with that movie is that it loses all of the style of the Tim Sale art, which is like the main reason to read the book.
Yep.
So it's, you know, you win some, you lose some, I guess. But
It doesn't look bad, it's just not stylized like that. And I mean, the question is, can you take that art and make it move and give it the same sensibility? And I would argue, I mean, you could do better with it than they did.
no, and it's in that Tomorrowverse style, which means that it looks like an episode of Archer.
Well, and
And
that's
it's very
actually the
stiff.
biggest issue I have with it is I don't like. I've complained about this before, but I don't like some of those big events having to be roped into their continuities. I really want them to be their own thing.
Hmm. No, it makes you appreciate some of that older stuff. Like we didn't start a universe with Year One. We didn't feel the need to put Under the Red Hood in a universe.
Well, and it's so awkward because that was only like what the second or third movie in the Tomorrowverse. Like already you're doing like that's how they
Yes.
introduced Batman. I
Yep.
think.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right. It's either second or third. I can't remember if it comes before or after Justice Society.
The first Batman movie they did after those guys took over was Soul of the Dragon, but that's not in that continuity. That's a 70s period piece thing,
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
which was fun enough, but
Yeah, the movie's fine. It did not make my top 100, but it's pretty good.
yeah, I didn't
I'll,
mind either. I keep trying to decide if I'm going to reveal stuff like that, like when things didn't hit, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I was like, no one's sitting there like, oh, when are they gonna get to Soul of the Dragon?
I will say since you said that, Incredible Hulk is one of the movies in that 18 that was on and off and on and off, and ultimately did not make it. But
Oh, okay. I don't know how I feel about the ending of Long Halloween, the movie. I think I ultimately don't like
a
it.
lot of that is not sticking with me right now.
So they change it so that I don't know if you remember in the book, it ends with Dent's wife where she's like, "Oh, it was me all along," or like I started it. And in the movie, it's Batman comes to her and is like, "I know that you did it, and it was you the whole time." And then he just leaves. It's like, okay, like that's such a worse ending. Like Batman comes to her and he's like, "Yeah, I know that you murdered these people. Bye." That's
Yeah,
so stupid.
that's one of those that like it's not sticking with me super well, but I remember really enjoying it while I was watching it and being super happy that they made the mystery make more sense.
Yeah,
And
and
it was cool to not know everything, even though it's a story that you've read before, which those things have attempted and managed to varying degrees. Like sometimes I want you to just do it straight, even if I know what the ending is. Like the thing with Gotham by Gaslight didn't really work for me, but and Hush is a mixed bag. But with that, it's like why I don't think the ending adds up anyway. So please, for the love of God, make it make more sense. And I was really glad they did not.
well, I
And
feel like I'm talking myself out of putting this on my list the more I talk
that's so
about it,
funny.
because it's like, yeah, here's all these things I don't really like about it.
But like I remember the voices in that being okay, and
Yeah, no, all the voices are pretty good. Um, I thought it was really cool when you get to the end of part one and it was like, oh man, like we're going off the rails. Like
that's what I was gonna say.
Tony
Is
just died.
the big thing that I do remember about that impressed me was that cliffhanger,
Hmm. No, it was a great cliffhanger.
and it really justified the 2-part thing.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things from the book that get cut that I think is unfortunate. Like we lose all the wedding stuff at the beginning, and so you lose like a lot of really great moments of that book. But it's okay. kind of wishing I didn't put this on my list the more we talk about it. But what's your 98, Cap?
My 90. Well, I'm gonna have this with stuff too. There are already some things I'm looking at here. Where I'm like, God, that's high. That's higher than it should be. It's gonna be weird when we get there because we're locked in now. I don't think. I think we're cheating if we move anything at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So here comes Austin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Austin, my 98 is a movie that I was really hoping to rewatch, and didn't get to, and I included this because I have thought about it an odd amount since I've seen it, and I've only seen it I think once, if not twice. But I love the visual style of it, and I like how just insane it gets. I included for my 98 Batman Ninja.
Okay, cool.
Another of those direct-to-video animated movies. I mean, what's not to like? You've got like giant mech robots at the end made out of cities. Like, it's so cool.
Mm-hmm. No, that's crazy.
It's got a real creepy Joker. I remember liking their Catwoman a lot, and just all the there's a lot of style to it, and I like all the costume designs a lot, just Japaneseifying everybody in that. I thought that was really fun. I was just beginning to warm up more to anime and Japanese animation in general when I watched that movie the first time, and it made a real impression on me. So there are some things that are on this list, less because I go back to them all the time, and more because I want to, and because they really left an imprint on me.
Yeah, and that's one I've never seen. But are you excited that they're making a second one now, or are you like,
no, I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. I think aren't they doing like a Justice League in that style with the second one?
I haven't looked into it. I just knew they were making one.
I could be wrong. I thought that's what I heard, but
I mean, that would be the next thing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what's cool about it is you can do anything you want in that, and you can't get too crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if there's giant city robots at the end,
and I can be honest, I have no idea what's happening through most of that. and I didn't care. I enjoyed it for the spectacle. I thought it was such a fresh, imaginative,
just a good time
take on Batman. Yeah, it was just a roller coaster ride.
Mm-hmm.
It's all superficial. I mean, what I enjoyed about it is superficial. I'm sure there's some cool ideas and stuff there I'm forgetting, but what I'm remembering about it is just how bat stuff insane it is.
You're like, look, it's Batman Ninja, okay?
What more can you ask for it besides turtles?
Yeah, exactly.
Roboters says he also likes Catwoman in that movie. Yeah, it's great. Roboters. Oh, sorry,
yeah, and I think she died right after that movie came out.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, I remember hearing that and being like, "Oh, that's sad." She was really good.
Back to Long Halloween real quick. Roboters also says he hates what they did to Gilda and it ruins her connection to Harvey. I've got to rewatch that. It's just been too long.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I only remember how they handle her at the end, and it sucks. So it's possible that all of her sucks.
Robert, watch Cap give Austin crap for including G.I. Joe, and then see him put the Death Note movie on his top 100.
Exactly.
No, that didn't happen. Now, I will say, after you just blindsided me with that, and I didn't know how to react to it.
Like I said, I'm glad.
I'm adjusting to the notion. What were you gonna say?
I said I'm glad that I front loaded it, and it wasn't like, oh, and now we're at number 10. Surprise.
I didn't mean to seem like obnoxious or mad about it. I just wasn't sure what to do there. Oh, that's what he meant? Like he's going to that stuff? Okay. Didn't immediately compute in my brain. And then it makes me go, oh God, should we count that stuff? Like I know you said you weren't doing it to try to get us to put it on the list, but but should it be? Like that's where my brain explodes.
That's entirely up to you. I won't fight that.
Sure. But I did want to throw this in real quick and say I will have some things on this list that even I am up in the air about whether it should count as a superhero movie, but it's on our list.
Yeah, there is.
And so I went ahead and included it.
I have no idea why it's on the list, but it is.
But it's a movie you like, so it's in there. Yeah, I did that with stuff. Anyway, yeah, Batman Ninja. I'm excited to do the commentary on that.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
I'm
keep
excited to
putting
see
it
it.
in polls, and it hasn't.
Oh,
At some point, I'll just pick it. So,
you just
like,
gotta pick
okay,
it. Yeah, just
next
rip
week
the
we're doing
Band-Aid
Batman
off.
Ninja. God bless America. 97.
So you had your The Marvels, and now I get to have my The
Oh
Marvels.
boy, here we go.
My number 97
Turnabout, folks.
is Blue Beetle.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that movie's fine. It's not like amazing or anything. We're still in that early point of the list where I'm like, most
Sure.
of these are just okay. Um,
Austin, it's so bloated though, man. Like I just if you cut
yeah,
a half an hour out of that movie, it's just generic superhero schlock. With that extra half an
100%.
hour, I'm looking at my watch just constantly, just like let me go home.
100%. The reason that I was like, this can make it is I think a lot of the action's really fun. It the main henchman guy is like the closest I'll ever get to a Crimson Dynamo adaptation, and that like really hit me sideways when I first saw it.
Oh, okay. It hit sensibilities that I
I was like,
don't
oh, we're like
have.
adapting things that I never thought I'd get to see from Iron Man. Like that's cool. I also just like Blue Beetle. I think he's a cool concept. His family is super annoying. Yeah, see, Connor's like, what? I know, I know. It's my The Marvels, okay?
No, so much of that movie for me is, oh, this is what people that hate Ant-Man think Ant-Man is.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and I just think this is what Ant Man is. So it's like,
Sure.
they're about equivalent. Um, I don't know. They're okay. I'm not gonna justify it being a great movie.
Well, also it's no, and just like with me with the Marvels, you don't have to justify it. I what I'm understanding more about your including it is if you're already a fan of a character and they didn't completely like wholesale muck it up, you're gonna enjoy it more than somebody like me that just has no dog in that in the first place. Like I don't care about that character. It's never that idea's never done anything for me.
Exactly. My list, my choice, and I think Blue
Yeah,
Beetle
yeah,
is
of
okay.
course. But I mean, I've got things like that
Yeah, absolutely.
where you've got a character that like I really like, and if you didn't already have an investment, it would not do anything for you at all.
All I'll say is this is not the worst thing you'll catch me putting on my list. So
Probably not. No, because I already am imagining a few things that are god awful that are on your list,
exactly.
or at least that I think are god awful. Matthew Bass, Blue Beetle is just one big CW pilot.
Basically, I mean,
It kind of feels like that, yeah.
yeah, visually it's better
The
than that,
production
but
values are way better.
yeah, like production value and visually it's better than that,
The
but like
Beetle ship is super
character
cool.
wise, yeah, about that. Yeah, the Beetle ship looks really good. The construct stuff is really cool. Uh, that's basically the only memorable things in it.
Yeah, that'll be kind of interesting when we get to that on Rewind, just to see that through your lens and see if it wins me over at all.
I mean, it's not going to be a lot of me arguing why it's good. Like, oh, this is fine. I don't know. I don't have the like,
You're
ooh,
just gonna watch it. You're not even gonna say anything.
especially like in what DC released that year. Like, it's by and large the best thing they put out that year.
Leo, I like Blue Beetle. The only thing that really annoyed me about it was the sister.
I don't even remember.
Well,
I probably agree.
one of my complaints, I remember now when we reviewed that, is that that's one of those movies where it kind of loses sight of its protagonist halfway through. Like the cast is too big and it becomes too much about that family. And at some point I forget I'm even watching a singular character superhero movie. It's like, oh yeah, that's right, that's our hero. I also don't think he carries that movie super well.
Oh, I don't agree. I think he does a good job.
Well, some of it
I can
is
understand
because
why
he
they
gets
kept.
written out of too much of it. But like, I don't think he's got enough presence, and I like him okay in Cobra Kai. Like I was already familiar with that actor, but I just yeah, I don't think he carried the piece real well.
Yeah, and I don't lose him in that movie, but like, I don't need the family stuff. That's basically only there so that we can have the Beetle ship in the climax and have Blue Beetle not in it, like doing separate things. We can cut back and forth. That's the only reason they're there. And I agree with Connor. Susan Sarandon gives an all-time paycheck performance. It's 100% true.
I
I yeah.
Yeah, I thought some of this is coming back to me now. I remember thinking the grandma with the like heavy violent backstory thing was very silly.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
You
about
remember
that.
that? She picks up like
Yeah.
a Gatling gun or something.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was dumb.
That was weird.
And yeah, it took too many of its cues from Shazam with the family stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's basically in that like Shazam Ant-Man place.
Yeah, and Shazam is a marginally better movie than that, but the sequel is not.
And I like the guy who plays Blue Beetle more, so like I would put Blue Beetle over Shazam. So
Sure.
it just depends on how you fall on that.
Yeah, of course. Well, and I was already a fan of that actor from Chalk,
Hmm.
and after the way he whined about the box office for two, I've lost a little bit of respect for that guy. But I like him fine as an actor. He was a little bit obnoxious. Okay, my 97 is the Ang Lee Hulk film, which we talked about a little bit earlier. And that is another kind of deeply flawed movie, especially by the third act with the big giant fight in the water with Hulk and his father, the kind of like electro fight where you're just I don't even know what I'm looking at. I have no idea what's happening right now. Some kind of weird absorption. So I have no idea what's happening. But that left a big impression on me in the theater. I talk about this in the rewind. I've talked about this every time I've discussed this movie. But just all the interesting things that it has to say about mental health and mental illness, and using the Hulk as a metaphor for depression is really smart and really well handled with that. And that's part of the reason that Jennifer Connelly is so good in that movie, is just how sympathetic she is as a as a supportive partner for somebody with a mental illness he can't control that manifests as a physical monster that kills things.
Mm.
And there's a lot of silly stuff with that movie. The Hulk is way too green, and the character model is kind of goofy. It was all right for the time. It does not hold up super well. There's some misguided stuff, like the comic panel thing was kind of a fun idea. It doesn't totally work, although I've kind of turned back around and appreciated it more as you've had some superhero movies after that sometimes seem to shy away too much from their roots. And it was kind of nice that a movie like that takes itself that seriously is also holding up a neon sign saying, I'm a comic book thing. I like comic books. You should read them. There's really cool character-driven stuff in them, like what we're making. And I had mad respect for Ang Lee for doing it like that, even if it didn't full-on work. And that's always been kind of my whole review of that, is this doesn't totally come together, but I see what he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hated that movie as a kid, and I've never gone back to it, but I'd probably like it a lot more now. So that's where I'm at. But you're right, there is a lot of just weird things in that movie. Like, that climax is awful.
Yeah. It's not one of the most watchable things on my list.
But it does have the most awesome death scene of all time with Talbot's death, where he like freezes and then spins around like he's in an Austin Powers.
Oh my god, I forgot all about that. Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time. I wanted to do the commentary on it last year for the commentary project, because that was the 20th anniversary and we just didn't get to it.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I remember we talked about it for like several months. It was like, okay, we got to do Hulk.
Well, maybe we'll do it this year. I don't know.
At some point, yeah.
Because I'm curious to see you go back to it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I'd probably like it a lot more than I did. My number 90. What are we on, 6?
Real quick, people are
Oh
talking
yeah.
in the comments about the fact that our channel somehow ranked the Hulk as the second most popular Marvel character, and I think we'd be remiss in not bringing that up. That apparently we have like a Hulk obsessed audience, and none of us realized it.
But that doesn't shock me. I don't think
It
we ever
does
really
me.
talk
They never
about it.
talk about it. It never comes up.
But when I think of who are the top two like Marvel characters like through all of time, it's Spider-Man and Hulk, and that's changed a lot now. But like I don't know, there's a lot of like kind of older picks for things on those lists. Like,
No, that's true. But I just thought it was surprising for our audience because I don't see a lot of Hulk talk.
I mean, a lot of people did ask for Immortal Hulk. That is one of those comics that people constantly are like, do that.
Yeah. Actually, Nicholas Bodo just brought that up. Uh, is the Immortal Hulk run tonally similar to the '03 movie? We reviewed the first volume of that, and I'm not remember. I don't remember having that thought.
No, that's more like horror-y.
Yeah. Yeah, that movie plays more psychological thriller
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
or just really depressing drama. Like it's got thriller elements, but I don't know. It's a lot closer to just like a really sad like kind of slit your wrist sort of movie.
And then it ends in a cloud.
Yeah, and water first, and then anyway, Austin, what is your 96?
My number 96. So I'm just gonna throw out, starting with Blue Beetle. I have like a stretch of three that are all about even. My number 96 is Thor, another movie
Wow,
that is just okay.
I did not expect that to make your list at all.
I was kind of hoping some of the stuff would get knocked off, but it's still here.
Yeah, that did not make my list. I'll tell you that right now.
um, I don't know. I like the first Thor movie. It's got a lot of issues. It's like pretty dull. It's weird in that they're kind of stuck with having to do the Earth stuff for the universe, but I don't know. I like the cast, with the exception of the people on Earth. That's probably the most I like Hemsworth Thor outside of Infinity War.
Yeah, which is almost indisputably his best performance, but
No, exactly. Um,
their Asgard design is all right.
yeah, I like how their
I wish we spent
Asgard
time
looks.
there, but like it's good. I like what the Rainbow Bridge looks like. I mean, it's Mario Kart, but I like it.
The only thing in that I don't like design wise is the ice giants. I don't think they look great.
Yeah,
Um,
but the
but all the
Destroyer
other
is
costumes.
cool.
Oh, the Destroyer is really cool. Uh, I enjoy all that stuff with him.
Thor's
Uh,
character arc in that movie is so paint by number.
yeah.
Like, do you really buy you get to the end of that movie and now he's worthy? Like, all right. He just went through a real typical, you know, like blockbuster hero's journey. Oh, I was really selfish and wanted to be king, but had to learn to sacrifice myself, and now I can pick up the hammer. Like even at that point in superhero movie history, I felt like I'd seen that 100,000 times, and I have now actually literally seen that 100,000 times.
My defense against that is, ah, as the great Odin once said, and I'm glad I did that while you were drinking. Uh,
Yeah, it was really weird. You get to that moment and he's quoting the Mars attacks Martians. I thought that was an odd choice, really.
yeah, I wish he just said "ack ack." It's Thor. That would have been awesome.
Suddenly, Odin just goes Loki gets his hands on the scepter, and then and then Odin goes, "Well, we've still got 2 out of 3 branches of government left, and that ain't bad."
But I think also at this point, like there is a quaintness to Thor where it's very small, like you're just in this little town, and like that's kind of where we're at. Even the bigger, like grander universe affecting things, like Loki's plan. It's just them on the Rainbow Bridge. Like there is just something nice going back to that after the last several years of superhero movies.
Yeah, and it's definitely got its moments.
Mhm. No, a lot of it's just the cast. They really elevate a lot of that, except for the people on Earth.
Yeah, I kind of like that scene where Thor is drinking beers with what's his name,
Oh,
Selwick
Selvig.
or
Yeah,
Selvig. Yeah, uh,
of the human cast, he's the best, and that scene's really nice.
there's a couple of nice kind of heartwarming. We just stopped everything and lived and breathed for a minute kind of moments that I wish was more of the movie.
Mhm.
And the places where that director kind of shine. I think one of the things that hurts that movie most for me is I really like that director, and it hurts my feelings that you can't see his fingerprints on it.
Oh, see, I can see a bit of that of
Branagh.
Grana. Yeah, uh, yeah, I see some of him in the direction. I don't have that.
Okay, because for me, it's the first of those that feels like an absolute corporate product that anybody could have made, but his name is on it.
I mean, in terms of story, I agree.
But even visually, I mean, I stand by this. It felt like half the movie was made before he even got on it, and he walked afterwards and wouldn't come back for a sequel, and it sounded like it was because he also felt that way.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I've always felt like I could see his fingerprints on it,
Okay.
but fair enough.
No, that's cool. I mean, that explains why you included it and I didn't,
I
but
mean, it's not like the most like artistic, like oh man, it's this guy,
yeah.
but
Well,
like, I can
it
see
was a
that
big
he
deal when
directed it.
Branagh was announced. I mean, I think some of it is for me is probably I probably had expectations going into that because his name was on it.
hmm Yeah, for sure.
The first thing, the first Branagh directed thing I saw was his Hamlet, which I saw in high school, and he stars in and directs that. It's pretty grandiose, and then he gets announced for Thor, and I'm like, oh cool, he's gonna make like a Shakespearean Thor movie. It's really right for that material. That is
Mhm.
not what that felt like.
Yeah, and I see a lot of the Shakespeare in it, which is why I think that like I can see more of him. But he also claims that there's no Shakespeare in that movie, so I don't know.
Well, that's cool if you found it. I did not find it. I did not find much of it.
A lot of it is just I think there's a lot of like Othello in the Thor Loki relationship, so it's just like there's certain things that are just kind of there already.
Well, that's what I was going to say is like the Shakespearean stuff I could point to is just already there in the source material.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm like, it's still there.
Yeah, well, they didn't take it out.
Yeah, exactly. They could have been rapping hip hop.
I hope this is still happening. By the way, when you start bringing up movies in like your 40s and your 30s, where I'm just like complaining
Completely
about your
tearing them down.
choices. Yeah, just ripping them apart.
It'll probably be happening into my top 10. Let's be real.
Oh, I can't wait. That's great. That's wonderful. Okay, you can say more nice things about Thor if you want to.
I don't want to.
I won't stop you.
I don't have that many nice things to say about Thor.
Yeah, this is what the bottom is like when you pick 100 of anything.
Exactly. This is me learning I don't really love superhero movies, apparently.
And yet, you've committed to the commentary series.
Perfect.
Sucks to be you. Robert's right. The Loki stuff is all great. I mean, that's the thing that most elevates it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Robert, I'm not angry about Austin's list.
Now I gotta be worried for my safety.
What can I do to you? You're in Canada.
Have you never heard of Bjork?
No, not really. I mean,
We
I've
can
heard...
mail a bomb to me.
Oh. Can we move on? What was that, 96?
Yes.
Okay, my 96, this is another movie that came on and off a lot. But I defended it so hard in the rewind, I felt like I probably should include it. And it is, in my mind, a better movie than Hulk. And that is The Phantom.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Which I think is a misunderstood movie. Because they made a straight up, like 30-40 serial, but in a 2-hour movie format. And so it's the kind of over the top melodrama and like kind of campy thing that you would have put out back then, but with some really nice production values for the most part for that period. And I think Billy Zane really gets that material. And I like a lot of those kind of proto superhero movies, the kind of pulp stuff that we were making through the 90s, and most of it did not hit. Most of them were flops. I think most of them were really quite good. And that movie is just a good time. I don't go back to it a lot, and it's it's very kind of Indiana Jonesy, but even more outlandish and over the top than something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a movie I had on my list to watch for this, and then never got a chance to. So maybe it could have made my list, but
given some of the things that are on your bottom, your bottom of your list, I think you probably would have included this. Yeah, it would have bumped something off. But at some point, we'll do it for the commentary project.
Absolutely.
There's a couple of things we've already done on the commentary project that you had not seen until we did them that I'm curious to see if we see here.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, this is probably obvious. I said I was able to hit 80 before having to watch things. There is quite a bit of things I've seen in the last 4 years that made my list. So,
but yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that. That's just a fun movie that I think is largely misunderstood.
Yeah, for sure.
And it also has the greatest superhero taking off his mask moment of all time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that mask has the very clear black like eyeshadow around the eyes, and then when he takes it off, we cut, and he doesn't have that.
Oh, it's the Batman Returns thing.
Yeah, but it's even funnier than that.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
And not too long after Batman Returns, but somehow it's even funnier.
Although Batman Returns also has the added bonus if he like rips the rubber of his mask.
Oh yeah, he just rips it?
Yeah, he just rips it off because it's clearly rubber.
Even I remember being a kid in the theater going, that shouldn't be that easy to pull apart.
No, it's a peel off.
And then I imagine like he tries to move his head and then he accidentally rips it, like when he's turning his head.
Well, it's like something went wrong in like the making of Batman movies, and the payoff for that all of these masks are really breakable in Batman Begins ended up in Returns for some reason.
I was about to say that. I was gonna make a joke about that where he pulls it apart and then Alfred's like, well, at least we have spares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's like the setup and payoff are in the wrong movies.
He's like, we ordered 10,000 defective rubber masks.
Well, I'm just gonna have to try not to land on my head and peel it off.
Yeah, I realize it's Bruce that had the line I just gave to Alfred, but I couldn't decide what to have Alfred say, so yeah. Anyway, 95.
We've officially hit at least my top 5, not yours yet.
Yeah, yeah. We said we would do certainly at least 5. There's almost no chance at 20 at this point.
There's no way.
Which is what I was aiming at, but we're running a little quicker now. We spent too long on how the hell is G.I. Joe a superhero movie? We spent way too long on that.
My number 95. I almost said my number 5. My number 95.
Give us your number 5.
Okay.
Loophole. No, don't do that. Don't do
that. My number 95 and the end of my trilogy of is Ant-Man. Which is a movie that like a month ago I decried to you that I really hope I see enough movies where I can kick Ant-Man off.
I was going to say, you did say that, and I was really wondering if it was going to make it. And this far in, I thought you would take it off. I thought there was no way we would see it.
Yeah, it was lower, and then I was like, Ant-Man's probably a better movie than some of my bottom ones. Ant-Man's fun. It's fine. It's okay. It's um I mean that's basically it. Paul Rudd's pretty
Paul
good.
Rudd's
I
really good. It's hard not to include it just because of that. They
Yeah,
never get better than that movie, which is
yep.
unfortunate.
It's the only one that's like kind of creative with how it uses ants.
Well, I
Like
think the action
completely
in that
drop
movie
that
is
off of that.
legitimately pretty good.
It's a little hit or miss, but like for the most part, I would say like it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Uh,
it has a lot of fun with the relative size thing,
mhm.
which is the big thing that I always gave it.
Yeah, exactly. It like a lot of those things that are interesting about the first one like get taken off more and more into the sequels.
It is the first MCU movie that I thought was built on a couple of massively faulty premises, though.
Sure. Absolutely.
Not to say that it's the first MCU movie that didn't have or that had like motivation issues or plot holes,
Hmm.
because obviously Iron Man 2, I have no idea why that villain is doing anything past a certain point, and Captain America has its ending with why did you have to crash the plane, but with Ant-Man, uh, there's just a lot of question in why Hank Pym even set up uh, Scott Lang to get the suit the way he did and all of that. Like it's all really contrived.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I don't know, it's also maybe takes a little too long to get to all that stuff.
Yeah, well,
But
because Hank Pym is in a hurry, but he
mm,
takes forever to get Scott Lang in the suit when he could just go talk to him.
mhm.
But he doesn't do that, and I'm like, but you're on a time crunch because you got
No,
this
he had
you got the supervillain that's about to do all these horrible things with your technology, and you're just waiting around for Scott Lang to maybe agree to be Ant-Man for you.
mhm.
It's ridiculous.
But Cap, it has the shrinking thing where you can see like the bigger versions of him as he's going down. So
No, that's really nice. That's great.
yeah, that is my only argument for a good thing against that.
No, there's good stuff. Well, and my other favorite thing to complain about with that movie is how could he possibly be sure that he could come out of the uh, what do they call it?
The
The
quantum realm.
quantum realm and be the same size he's supposed to be.
Hmm. See, if that were in one of the sequels, they probably would have made a joke about it. But
Probably so. They didn't even notice they did it there.
yep.
And it's also just hilarious that they made a whole villain out of a costume. Ant-Man has no rogues gallery. We'll take one of Ant-Man's costumes and make it a villain.
Hmm. Well, the first villain in DCU Batman is going to be the Cape Crusader, and then he'll come back later as a different classic DC character.
That'd be great. You should have a villain that's just the prototype suit at the end of Batman Forever. That's a villain now.
Yeah, the Scarlet Speedster could have been a villain in that show when they ran out of like 1800 speedsters to be the main villains.
But like some of the heist stuff in that movie is fun, and I don't mind his gang in that.
No, no, they're okay. And yeah, I agree. Like the heist stuff is pretty fun. It's not. They could have gone a little farther with that element, but it's fine. It's enough there that I can say it's a heist film.
Yeah, no, that's true. And the biggest compliment, well, besides the casting for Hank Pym, which is just correct, the biggest compliment
He's the
that
ants guy,
ants.
which is actually the number one reason it's on my list, which is just ants,
Ants.
ants, Ant Man.
But no, the biggest compliment that I was always able to pay that film, which I still really appreciate, is that they keep that character relegated to a B superhero in universe. I always really liked that.
Mhm. It is funny that that's like the one place where we remove a comic book Tony Stark tie-in. I think that's kind of amusing because they kept adding them.
What do you mean?
In the comics, once Scott Lang gets out of prison, he works for Stark. Like he gets hired on as like a prison, like a former inmate
I didn't
thing.
even know that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's like the one place where we went. Let's not have him connected to Tony Stark.
Is it time for my 95?
No. Yes,
Oh,
go
okay.
for it.
We're gonna skip mine. We're gonna go to Austin's
My
94.
number 94.
A year ago, this may not have even made my list, but it's here for two reasons. I'm gonna explain the reasons before I say what the movie is to see if people guess it. One of them is I have had a better viewing with this every time I've had to watch it for the channel in recent years, and secondly, it's because. Despite the fact that it was really weird for me when I was a kid, there is a couple of like massive bits of nostalgia with it, and
Oh.
that is, of course, Batman Returns.
The second you said nostalgia, I was like, okay, I know what you're talking about now.
Batman Returns ends up making the list almost just for like the duck alone, and and the and the penguins with rockets on their backs, of which I still have the action figures for, by the way. And just superficial stuff. Obviously, I always loved the score for that movie, and how the same but different it is from '89. And the casting of those villains is perfect. Even if I don't like, you know, obviously some of what's done with them, particularly in the relationship between those two characters, which just still creeps me out and kind of grosses me out to this day. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, and we did the commentary for that not too long ago. I think that was only what 5 or 6 ago.
Something like that, yeah. Basically, your number 95 is just the picture you were looking for.
That was excellent. That was well done. I really appreciated that. That did not go over my head.
No, your reflexes were too fast.
I caught. I'm curious to see where this lands on your list because I know it'll be here. Because I know you've said you're in a place where you like it even better than '89, and I know you like '89. Okay, so I'm gonna assume both of those things are gonna be here somewhere, and probably returns higher than mine by quite a bit.
No, '89 is definitely a worse movie than Ant-Man, Thor, and Blue Beetle. Throw that out there. I think we all know it. We're all tired of pretending it's not true.
I just fired Austin without his knowing about it. But yeah, everybody knows my complaints about Batman Returns. I'm not going to get into all of that again. I mean, that's why it's as low as it is. Like I said, there was a time this movie wouldn't even make my list. I used to be much more irritated about that movie, particularly as a sequel to '89. Because I know Austin doesn't agree with this, but I still just I can't even put them together. They feel like totally different things to me.
No, we had a pretty good,
different things.
pretty good watch on that with the rewind, I would say.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm liking it more every time I'm seeing it. At this point, I don't know if I've just dropped my standards to the floor, or if I've just kind of lightened up in my old age. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's also just things that you're like, oh, I really don't like this when you're younger, and then as you get older, you're like, I kind of like settled into it. Like it is what it is. That's what I have with the Raimi Spider-Man movie. Is not that I hated them going back to it, but you know what I mean. Like where it's like, these aren't really what I want from Spider-Man, and now I'm just kind of settled into it.
Well, and I don't know if I've made this point enough in some of these videos, Austin, but I'm starting to have this thing where the more material we have, I guess what I mean is the more variety as we get more adaptations of some of these things we end up with, the easier it is to stomach different takes that are not what I would do with it or my favorite thing retroactively, right? So the more Catwomans we get, the easier I can deal with like crazy psychotic thrown out of a building Catwoman from that movie. Like when that was the only live action Catwoman you had for the longest time, it was harder for me to appreciate and enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
But you've now had two more on the big screen, and the last one was like nigh perfect, and it's just now I've got a variety. I've got like different takes that I can go. You know what I mean? Like when it's the only one you have, you go, well, I want it to be more definitive. I want it to be, the real one. And then when there's a bunch to choose from, it just becomes a lot easier to go back and look at that and go, well, I mean, that was somebody's take on this.
So basically, you're saying that you're more and more okay with the Catwoman movie.
Sure, that's exactly what I'm saying.
What is her name? Like Prudence Clearwater revival?
Patience Phillips.
Patience, that's what it is. I don't know why I thought it was Prudence.
The most, we just popped open a list of baby names and grabbed stuff out.
List of adjectives. What are we at? Number 94?
Yes.
My number 94, you'll probably be surprised made my list, but is the first Deadpool.
I thought it would probably be here somewhere just because we're doing 100.
Yeah. I have to pretend that we're surprised, Cap.
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
What?
I was expecting 3 Transformers movies in a row.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna read my script from now on.
Yeah, it's okay. Keep reading your lines, Cap. The first Deadpool movie I think is really uneven. I think we've kind of talked about this on the channel, but I don't love all the flashback stuff for his origin, but I like when he's actually Deadpool in that movie well enough. I still find Deadpool annoying, but like I don't know, those movies are fun enough that like I can get by on it. Okay. I don't think any of them really hold up on rewatch. I think I always have a much better first viewing, and then every single time I re-see them, I'm like, oh, that's right, Deadpool's just annoying.
Well, and you're not alone. I mean, nearly everybody I've ever worked with on the channel is like, I don't get the popularity of Deadpool. He's irritating. Please make him stop talking.
And
yeah,
absolutely.
I think I just had better first impressions with that character than a lot of you guys did. Because I ignored it for the longest time, and then the first real Deadpool thing I looked at, like all I knew was memes and he talks a lot. Like I didn't even know who Deadpool was really when Origins came out. Like that recently, I didn't know anything about that character, and a few years into doing this, one of our subscribers sent me the Joe Kelly stuff, and that was really my introduction to the character. And then the next big thing I read was Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, and I was kind of primed to appreciate that character more. It wasn't like my thing, and like I wasn't really into like the raunchiness and the hyper violence of it, which is the stuff that you wouldn't mind at all.
Yeah, no, I was at some point I need to read that stuff. I do have the issue where I think they try too hard to make Deadpool likable in those movies.
I agree, absolutely,
and strip some of what I've always heard of as being, the real meat to that character out of it. But it's also not just meme pool. It's not the video game, which is just 100% I'm gonna spout memes for 2.5 hours.
No, the thing that most shocked me about that first movie is it actually tried to tell a somewhat character-driven story, even around all of the comedy.
Yeah, no, and there's lines that I think are pretty good in that. Like I like the when he breaks his hand off Colossus and he's like, oh, Canada. Then he breaks the second one off and he's like, every dinosaur feared the T-Rex.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
some good lines in that movie.
That's pretty great.
Professor Zoom says he's supposed to be kind of annoying. That's the point. Yeah, except I just find him annoying. Like there's, but whatever.
Yeah, like just because that's what you're just because your motivations are clear doesn't mean I have to like your motivations. You know what I mean? Like, well, it might just not be for you then,
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of the time when a point of a character is they irritate everybody, that's a difficult character to make you want to watch as a protagonist. That typically is a very less is more like supporting character that spends a lot of time in the background.
Yeah, exactly. My biggest issue from a story level with the first Deadpool movie is probably just I like don't buy for a second that Wade's like, oh, my wife, or not wife, my girlfriend, I can't speak to her, I'm ugly. There's never a point in that movie where I buy that Deadpool is like self-conscious and like down on himself to not just do it. I think they have a hard time
He
just
feels like two different characters at that
he
point.
exactly. There's like the dramatic scenes and there's the funny scenes, and there's two different people in them.
That's my biggest complaint with it too. And he's just too relatively altruistic at the beginning.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. That and the first two Deadpool movies are more up their own asses, where it's like, look how different we are when they're not really.
Particularly with just adapting superhero stuff.
That's
Where
what
it's
I
like,
mean.
here's
Yeah.
all this stuff that you never see in a superhero movie, and I'm like, some of it gets real generic, like the superhero landing and all of that stuff, where you're like, I don't know, Ryan Reynolds, I don't know if you've actually watched enough of this kind of stuff. Like,
I mean, that's fine because that is absolutely a trope. It's more so the like, I'm not a superhero, I kill people, and it's like that's been a thing going all the way back.
yeah,
Like,
and has been very in vogue in recent years before you've been doing it.
mhm. It's more so things like that. Like the superhero landings, fine. Like that is a trope. It's not especially funny, but
Yeah, I'm with you. Matthew Bass is right, though. The Zamboni line is great.
oh yeah, that's like maybe the best line of the movie. That and I like the part where it's like the montage of him killing people in that same bit with the Zamboni, where the woman he's fighting the two women and he's like, oh my god, like is it sexist to hit you? Is it
Yes!
sexist to not hit you? And then he cocks his gun and it just cuts. I really like that bit.
He goes, I'm so confused.
So confused.
Well, and I know you won't agree with this, but I guess we'll just get everything out about this movie now, because I mean, it's gonna be on my list somewhere. I mean, we all know that.
We all know it's like number 3.
It's one of those things that I didn't know like what to make of it before I walked in. I didn't know what kind of expectations to have, and it just kind of surprised me on every sort of level. Again, you won't agree with this, but I've just always thought that relationship is one of the, like, romantic relationship is one of the better superhero romances.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot.
Yeah,
and then it's all downhill from there, but I like it a lot in that first movie, which is a lot of why I like that first movie better than 2,
Mm-hmm.
and by like a wide margin. Not as wide with Deadpool and Wolverine, which also surprised me. And I've only seen it once, and so I don't know where it's gonna land until I watch it another time or two. But it's better than 2 by a lot.
So basically, 3 is Deadpool, 8 is Deadpool 2, and then 8 is Deadpool and Wolverine, and then like 15 is Deadpool 2. It's got to be like a bit wider.
Meanwhile, you didn't even put 89 on your list.
No. G.I. Joe the movie, Batman 89. I mean, come on now.
He's like, I took all Cap's favorite movies off, so now I have to populate the rest of this with G.I. Joe and Transformers movies.
My bottom 50 movies when we get there will just be your favorites.
I'm just gonna pick things that aren't that aren't even justifiably superhero movies at all. My number 19 is Field of Dreams. Deal with it.
Yeah, it's about Superman's dad. It's a prequel. And then
it's about a man whose father played baseball and ate hero cake.
Yeah, and then the film after that is, of course, Swordfish, because it's about Wolverine before he got his claws. As my mom told me as a child.
Yeah, but I don't know how you're going to justify your number 58 pick, which is Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh, easily. That's their power. He's like Resurrection Man. Come on, okay? You can't tell me Resurrection Man's great and then not like the only movie that he has.
That's one of. We should do that stream where people throw us arbitrary movie titles and we try to pitch we try to explain how they're somehow superhero movies.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a great stream.
That's such a good idea. We need to write that down somewhere. I think we should do that. Just everybody throw us a superhero movie or throw us a movie that's not superhero. We'll tell you why it is.
As long as it's not like, oh no, we have a bunch of movies we've never even heard of.
That whole stream will just be us showing how uncultured we are.
Hmm. It's like, what the hell's Citizen Kane? What?
Sorry, I'm writing this down. I don't want to forget about it. Okay, the thing I just wrote down looks like nonsense. I hope I know what the hell I was talking about when I look at that later. Okay, your number 94, right, was Deadpool.
Yes.
My number 94 is Disney's Sky High, which they're talking real hard about finally making a sequel to, and I kind of hope that doesn't happen. It's a little late for that. Or maybe they're even talking about that as a series or something. I can't remember, but
Well, the
I think
director specifically said he wants a sequel, but he wants it to be in the MCU.
that's weird.
Which is, yeah, like what?
Probably because he assumes more people will see it that way.
Because there's like 8 people that will watch it if they make a sequel.
Yeah, it's way too late for that. If they'd done it back then, sure, there's plenty of room to grow with that. I think. I mean, that could have been a franchise. That could have been a nice, two movies or a trilogy. But anyway, that was a movie that surprised me when I did the rewind. It's as low as it is just because I haven't gone back to it much, and I don't know how rewatchable that is. That strikes me as, well, I say that, but I liked it so much I actually felt the need to watch it a second time before I wrote about it. So maybe that's not fair. Maybe it is a more rewatchable movie than I'm thinking. But I haven't felt the need to go back to it since then. But it was just a lot more cleverly written than I expected, and really knew its stuff when it comes to superhero tropes. It's a real fun superhero parody kind of thing. It's a really fun, all ages sort of family film that still got, like, I can't say an edge to it, but it doesn't feel too like watered down or generic. And it's a real neat cast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got a lot of really cool people in it, especially with the teachers. And it's got Kurt Russell, so that makes me happy.
It's got Kurt Russell. It's got Bruce Campbell.
That's a movie I haven't seen since I was a kid, and I was like, I don't know it well enough to justify putting it on a list. But
Sure.
I remember liking it well enough at the time. I'd probably like it if I rewatched it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you would. I'm wondering what it's like watching it now after so many more superhero movies have happened. Because I've not seen it in well over a decade.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's prophetic. Who knows? Maybe it's like Mystery Men, where it just is like, oh, this is very clearly made at this point.
Yeah, probably so.
Oh, yeah, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead was in that. Connor just said. I forgot she's in that.
Robert, I'm surprised you haven't shown Sky High to your kids yet. It's funny, I started to a couple weeks ago. I was going to rewatch it for this, and then, I don't know. I've just got a lot of kids. Things are always coming up, so...
They were like, boo, show us that superhero landing movie instead, and you were like, okay.
Right, yeah. We have a no censoring anything for our children policy here at my house. We don't care about... We don't look at ratings. We think it's immoral to shelter your children from anything at all.
That's why you guys settled down for the best comic book movie, A History of Violence.
Right. Yeah. We read our children the novelization of Saw before they go to bed.
The novelization of Saw.
I know, it was a weird place to go, you have to admit. It's pretty funny.
No, I want to find out if there is in fact.
Yeah, now I want to read that.
Is there a novelization of all like 15 Saw movies?
Can you get a big tome of all of them?
Yeah, can you get them in like a nice collection?
You just gotta. I'm just imagining that. And how horribly written it must be. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. I gotta go back and see it again. We watched like 10 minutes of it, and then something came up. I can't remember what, and we had to quit, and I forgot to get back to it. So, but I will show that to my kids.
Right on.
Okay, Austin. It's sorry, I'm getting tired. It's time for number 93, and we have, if we're gonna go a full 2 hours, we got about 12 minutes.
Oh, okay. My number 93 is your number 3. It's X-Men Days of Future Past.
Wow, it's that low.
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
I'm really surprised it's that low, because I know I like that movie more than you do. We were finding some real common ground with it. We're like, I don't know if you came up a little bit. I definitely came down a little bit, but
Yeah, I feel like I was about even when I rewatched it for that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it will have forever taken the trilogy that I actually wanted away from me.
Well, sure, yeah. It sounds like you put it lower on your list just to try to enact some sort of petty revenge.
No, a lot of it's just I don't love that movie. I like things.
That's
in
fair,
it.
sure.
I don't know if I really have to break it down. Like, just go
This
watch
is not
that
about
rewind. We just
yeah.
did
This
it,
is not about
but,
story quality and stuff. This is like what do you love? What do you want to watch?
But I mean, I also have major story quality issues with that movie.
Well, that's true too. That's true too.
So like, it is also a bit of both. Like, in terms of just enjoyment, that's probably the only thing that brings it onto the list, to be honest.
Wow.
Just that it is watchable, but I think its story is a giant mess.
Let's be fair. If you were as obsessed with John Ottman's score as I am, it would be higher on your list.
And it is a great score. But yeah. Everyone's gonna be booing me now.
Oh, they are, yeah. But you knew that was gonna happen. You had people booing you in the commentary for saying anything negative about that movie whatsoever.
Yes. Well, I will say
I won't call anybody out, but we had a couple people that really seemed like if you weren't calling that the greatest superhero movie of all time, you might as well be flipping your sign red. Like,
and I will say there are definitely choices I made where I picked things and then followed them up with a middle finger to people who are booing me. So enjoy that when we get there. Cap, what is your number 94 or number 93?
My number it's just hilarious, the difference in the kind of movies that we selected here, because I am still very much in movies that, I like. I mean, obviously your pick there is a movie you just like, okay, but like things that you would expect me to maybe say for things that are, in a bottom 10 just okay, I'd ever think to go back to. That is a big heavy hitting kind of movie. My 93 is Defendor.
Oh, which is one I really wanted to watch for this, and I'm like kind of remiss that I missed it. But
yeah, I thought you actually did. You never got to it.
I had it on my list. There was, like I said, there was a certain point where I was like, oh my god, I don't know if I can watch anymore. But there's that and Danger Diabolic are like two of the big ones. I wish that I had.
Oh, you didn't see Diabolic.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that just makes your entire list invalid, really. It's all null and void now. A year from now, it would look completely different. You didn't watch the two most important movies. No, I'm totally kidding. Defender is another one that I haven't seen in a good long time, but it is an impressive independent film that's pretty violent. About in like, it's got a satirical quality to it, but there's kind of a cool realness to it all at the same time. That's about a superhero, or about like a mentally handicapped guy who decides to go out and be a superhero. It's got a cool cast. It's got Elias Koteas in it, Casey Jones from Ninja Turtles. Mm-hmm. He's really good in that movie, and it's just one of those things that that kind of surprised me. And there was not much like it at the time, and it is if memory serves, it's pre-Kick-Ass and things like that. So there's some things that it would remind you of, like Super, things like there are things that would remind you of that came out after it. Mm-hmm. I think I'll check the date on that again.
I think they're all around the same time. They might. I was gonna say it might be the same year,
Yeah,
but
2009. So it
oh,
predates.
so it literally is like boom, boom, boom. Because
Yeah,
Super's 2011 and Kick-Ass is
is
2010.
10. Yeah.
Crazy.
Uh,
No, Defenders always look cool to me. I love Woody Harrelson. He's always great. I think you can probably say it's the best superhero movie Woody Harrelson's been in.
yeah,
Unless Venom
that's
2 is making your
it's
top
not
10.
saying a lot. It made me. That's one of the many things that makes me sad about how they handle all that. Is that seemed like cool casting. He seemed a little old for it, but other than that,
It's great casting, yeah.
and he's got that like wild-eyed, you have no idea what he's gonna do, thing with Defendor. But that character, like at the same time as he kind of does that crazy thing, he's also wonderfully sympathetic and impressively. It doesn't feel like it's uh making fun of anybody. Like it's a comedy, but somehow it's not mean-spirited about the mentally handicapped thing. And I'm not sure how they
Oh,
pulled
okay.
that off because immediately, and I was worried about it going into it, because immediately I was like, oh, this is a movie that's going to have a bunch of fun at the expense of like autistic people or like otherwise mentally handicapped people. And it placed that whole thing like with kid gloves.
I mean, that's good.
Like
There-
it's pretty
yeah.
mature about that whole thing. I don't mean it tiptoes around anything. I just mean like it's thoughtful about that aspect of it.
hmm No, that's nice. I need to watch it. At some point, I think maybe when we started to do this, I found a copy of that movie online and it had like really awful audio, so I didn't finish it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, at some point I will make up for this egregious error.
All right, we're on to 92, sir. I think we might at least knock out our bottom 10.
Are we at
Well,
92?
we got we got 5 minutes. I guess we could go slightly longer so we can at least knock out the bottom 10. What are you gonna say?
Okay, we are at 92. I was
92.
like, yeah, okay.
Because you go before me and we just did 93. And that is the extent to which I can do math.
Yeah.
But I can do that much.
I don't want to admit my number 92. Can we skip over 92?
You want to just Austin just wants to quit, and then we'll open with this. Well, you probably wouldn't want to open with it either.
Well,
Is
my
this going to
number
be another like shockingly low one?
no, my number 92 is really bad, and I admit that it's bad.
Oh,
But
okay.
I also grew up with it, so I'm like, I don't know. I find it watchable and I find it funny.
Dude,
Uh,
I've got one. You won't be all that surprised by it probably, but I've got one real high that I know you won't have on your list at all.
yeah,
That's for that very reason.
yeah.
I can't full on justify it. I've it's always been with me. It's too much of a part of me. I had to do it.
Mm,
I can't wait.
yeah. Well, and I probably only put it here. It probably is more like number 100, but I think I only put it here because I thought it would be amusing to put after Days of Future Past.
As over it.
Yeah.
All right. What's it gonna be?
My number 92 is the only one of these that I put on my list, which is Transformers 3,
Oh wow.
which I think is the best of those movies. I find a lot of it very amusing and how bad it is. It gets incredibly mean-spirited by the end in a way that's hysterical. It also
That
weirdly
movie's still way more watchable than 2 though.
100% and 5. Oh my god.
Which one is
Avengers
5?
all it's the last night, the last one they did.
Oh,
with
that's
Monday.
yeah. Honestly, 4 was kind of all right, at least for those.
Yeah, 4 I would probably put second. So this is the only one of these that made my list, and it probably isn't really deserving, but
Okay.
I'm being a little. Uh, uh, um,
And that does have Leonard Nimoy.
it does have Leonard Nimoy, and he has one of the funniest callback lines of all time. Where
I can't remember. Did they do like a Needs of the Many thing? Or I can't remember what
That's
they had him
exactly
say.
what it is.
Isn't it?
They have all the Autobots captured in prison, and he just turns to them and yells, Autobots, you fail to realize the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Uh, also, also, um, Quantum Mania like steals Megatron's arc in that movie and is way worse, and that's insane. And I was like, I can't believe if you were gonna steal from anything, you stole from that. Um, Completely ridiculous. And then, but
Yeah, it
also,
didn't occur to me that they did that.
but also, Avengers kind of steals its climax, like to the point where there's visuals that are almost the exact same. Like it has the space whales and stuff, and
Oh, I didn't think of that.
They come out a year apart, and I've always been like
See, I saw that
that.
movie one time on Netflix, not even in the theater, and like in the background when I was doing laundry or something.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I didn't notice that Avengers ripped off anything. And I honestly probably saw it like well after I saw Avengers.
Connor just brought up part of why it's on my list, which is that Optimus Prime executioner style assassinates Leonard Nimoy, and it's the funniest thing in any movie where he's begging for mercy. And there's also a thing in that where Megatron helps him, and then the original ending was that he goes, "Let's have a truce," and then they go, "Okay," and one kind of takes Earth, the other takes Cybertron. And then the novelization leaked, and they were like, "Oh God, we got to change the ending." So instead, Megatron offers a truce, and then Optimus decapitates him.
Oh
It's
yeah,
amazing.
I do
But
remember
anyway,
that now that you say it. I don't even remember the character Nimoy plays in that.
he's Sentinel Prime.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, he's like the twist villain, but it's obvious because they cast Leonard Nimoy. See, I felt more embarrassed saying it than I do actually talking about it. And like, I'm just gonna throw it out there. A lot of people have trashed on Michael Bay for years. I don't think he's a great director. I don't like Michael Bay that much. I like have more respect for Michael Bay than I do a lot of directors. He has or like a lot of modern directors, I should say, and that he actually has a vision that he goes out and makes. He knows how to make special effects look good.
Yeah.
Like there are way worse directors, especially working in superhero stuff at this point, than Michael Bay.
Well,
I say as someone who doesn't like Michael Bay.
I think at this point, because of how oversaturated and terrible they got, I don't think that first Transformers movie gets enough credit anymore for how innovative its visual effects were. Mm-hmm. Because I remember going to the theater and wondering how long it took to render frames with just how real at the time I remember thinking the Transformers looked. And I say at the time because I've never gone back to that movie. Not in a long time, but I remember going, this all looks like it's really there. And I don't know how they managed that. It was really impressive. And they get lazier as it goes along, but
100%. No, those effects, at least of the initial 3, still really hold up. He definitely knew kind of how to work around that and how to shoot it so that it was better for the animators. But I don't know. That's my little rant about that. Like I said, I will never argue that it's a great movie because it's not. But a lot of it is the kind of nostalgia you talked about with Returns, where I can go back and watch any of those movies. None of them are good, but like I watched them as a kid. Like I can sit through them.
You'll definitely see stuff like that on my list later.
Yeah, so.
But even a lot higher. So
you know what? To be fair, I did not get I was expecting like a big, oh my god, that over Days of Future Past reaction, and I didn't get that. So I don't feel as bad doing it. If anything, now I'll double down and say it's way better than Days of Future Past.
I don't know, man. I mean, you like what you like.
Anyways, what is your next?
But so much. Well, I gotta say this real quick. So much of that is personal sensibility stuff, like I talked about earlier. That's gonna be a motif that will run through this, where you are a gigantic Transformers fan that's immediately primed to get something out of those movies, and Days of Future Past massively disappointed you because it got away from where First Class was going. So I
Mhm.
mean, just subjectively, those things are going to hit you personally in ways that
Exactly.
other people won't have and won't appreciate because they're not you. So like in
Exactly.
exactly the same way, and I mean, like I obviously I'm not going to reveal where it lands on my list, but like in exactly the same way as you're never going to get why I like Batman Forever as much as I do.
Mhm.
Like there's no explaining that. You'd have to be me.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I agree, and that was something I was actually going to bring up too. Is that Days of Future Past is obviously a better movie. It's just one of them disappointed me, and the other I'm like, oh, this is like the close to watchable he's ever got.
Yeah. So you're comparing apples to oranges, and you're being forced to because you're making a ranked list.
Yeah, and it's all arbitrary.
Yeah, exactly. So waste time with us while we tell you
And
about it
also, don't
anyway.
forget to tell us your top 50.
Yeah, and everybody, you got lots of time. Please participate with that. I would love to see more entries than we got with the top 50 superheroes, and it's half as much work you have to do because there's only one list,
Yeah.
and it's 50. And again, you don't have to put in 50. And I don't mean to plug it too hard, but I'd love to see us get to 75 or 100 responses with that.
Mhm. No, I'm sure people would have fun seeing that and seeing how it all comes out in the wash.
It'll be fascinating to see that. And because Austin has gone off the rails and picked some things that are not on that list, I guess I'll allow it, but just understand that if you do some like sort of write-ins that aren't on that regular list, it's not likely that anybody else will think of those movies.
Hmm.
And so you may be throwing votes away is all I'm going to say with that.
Yeah,
So like
absolutely.
if a bunch of people all got to banded together and decided to try to get a Transformers movie on it, like maybe that would happen. But like you also have a 1 in like 7 shot
Hmm.
of like which one it would even be. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I would encourage
Oh.
people to do stuff like that because you probably won't get that movie on that list. But
Yeah.
okay,
Right.
my 92 is going to be real kind of off the beaten path and a thing that most of you guys won't have seen. Uh, but I enjoy quite a few of these, and this is the only one of these I put on my list. But I picked one of the direct to video DC Lego movies, which is Lego Justice League Attack on the Legion of Doom, which is the second one they made. The first one was Bizarro League. It's fine. The second one is a really fun, obviously, super kid friendly kind of like parody of dark deconstructions of superhero movies. Of superhero stories, I should say, and it feels like a thing that is lambasting BVS, I believe before BVS even came out, which was really weird going back to it after BVS because I was like, how did this hit all the beats? Uh, but it's really funny to see a Lego thing make fun of how dark and cynical the superhero movies get. And it doesn't do that to the heights that Return of the Cape Crusaders does, but it really tickled that sensibility for me before Return of the Cape Crusaders even came out. So I had a lot of fun with it and respected it for that. But part of the reason I put it on the list too is just I've always loved the gag in that of Superman is so altruistic and fair that he regularly holds uh, elections for who's going to be the leader of the Justice League, and he doesn't vote for himself. I mean, that's hilarious. And so Batman becomes the leader of the Justice League at the beginning of that movie because Superman votes for everyone votes for
Everyone votes for
themselves
themselves.
except for Superman, who votes for Batman.
That's the Brethren Court from Pirates 3.
Oh yeah,
That's pretty fun.
it's really funny. But yeah, that's my favorite of those. I enjoy that a lot, and they're all pretty decent. There's like 7 or 8 of those, and after a while, they started focusing in on specific characters. So they're basically all Justice League movies, but after a while they quit just being as much about Batman and Superman, and they do one that's just Aquaman focused, and they do one that's just Flash focused. And a lot of you guys wouldn't think to look at those because they're aimed so hard at kids, but the guys that are writing those kind of know their stuff, and there are lots of morsels that are for comic fans that might not even think to watch those. So I wouldn't sleep on them, if particularly that second one. If you ever, now it just turns into a recommend, but I figure most of you guys want to watch that. They used to be on Max, and Max took all of them off, which kind of sucks.
They seem to be weird with that, from what I've heard. It's like they're constantly adding and then taking off, and it's like, why?
Well, yeah, and they've been like that from the beginning. But at this point, I just blame Zaslav, because ever since he came in, they gutted the superhero section. Like a lot of they used to have a ton of the direct-to-video cartoon movies, animated movies. And you're right, sometimes they would take some off and sometimes they would put some on, but it's just totally gutted now. There's hardly any of it there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely different since the merger. Yeah, it just makes me want to cry. Well, let's go ahead and hit our 91s, and then that will finish up our bottom 10, and we can call it a night and start with 90 next time, I think.
Well, okay. Well, I guess we're ending on me also dropping a big one.
Uh-oh.
My number 91 is Logan, which I know I will 100% get more booze on, but I'm sure you're not surprised by that.
I'm a little surprised it's that low. I mean, like, I know you're not the biggest fan of that movie, but I'm interested to see what some of the higher things are when a movie like that is that low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure that's like number 2 for you.
Well, I'm not gonna tell you where it landed, but
no, I know. But we already know your number 1 is like a triple tie, and then number 3 is Deadpool. So number 2 is probably Logan.
Yeah, I actually got 115 movies on my list. I just have a ton of ties.
Almost every number
just
after 90 is a tie. Yeah.
Robert says, I mean, at least it made your top 100.
That is true.
That's one of those movies that you either have an emotional response to it or you don't. And
yeah, and I just don't.
If you don't, then it makes sense that, you know, if it doesn't affect you in that way, it's not really a movie just to watch. Like it's gotta hit you right.
Mm-hmm. No, I really like Logan, Professor X, and X-23 in that movie. And then none of it emotionally lands for me, and I don't really like anything outside of them. So it's like I like those characters, and that's what makes that movie overall good. But nothing outside of it really holds it up to being, you know, one of the best superhero movies ever made. So that's about it. Everyone can boo me. It's okay. I can take it.
Yeah, I mean, I had such a visceral response to that. I can't connect with you on any level with this, but
mm-hmm. No, of course. I mean, that's the big thing, right? Like you said, it either lands for you or it doesn't, and you can never explain what do you mean it doesn't land for you? Like,
no, I walked out of the theater like depressed with that movie.
Mm-hmm. No, I have the same thing with Toy Story 3, where it's like I will forever be arguing with people about how bad that movie is.
Yeah,
and everyone goes, but like it was this big emotional thing for me, and I'm like, but it's bad. Except Logan's not bad. It's just all right. Anyways, what's your number 91?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what else to add, like, unless I just start talking that movie up. You know what I mean? Like,
no, of course.
Yeah, and I mean, like, a lot of people, of course, are so affected by that movie that it bothers them that Jackman like agreed to come back and did Deadpool and Wolverine and all of that, and especially because I liked that movie. Like I don't have that with it. Like I'm not so attached to it to the point where it's like it's like be all end all. Although I mean I was skeptical of doing anything else after it.
No,
But
and when we did the history, because we talked a little bit about it there, and people
yeah,
were kind of annoyed that I compared it to Endgame, where it's like it works as a culmination of a thing, so it depends on how invested you are, but like also like kind of like it's not like Endgame. I would say is a worse movie on a technical level than Logan, but like they're both relying on you having an investment to this. I think.
yeah. It's just hard to articulate because that's not how I felt watching it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like you can't unsee what you see or not feel the way you feel about a thing. So it was difficult to say how much of what affected me with that movie is because I already had an investment in characters and maybe actors.
Hmm.
But it was also so detached from the larger franchise. That was one of the things that impressed me about it is like it felt like a standalone movie that wasn't doing that.
Yeah. No,
But
very
part
true.
of the magic of it might be that there's sort of a bait and switch that it does with people where like you do have to bring that investment to it. It's just that I know there are people that saw it that have never like really liked Wolverine that suddenly liked him with that. And that's kind of the argument I would toss at you with it is it did win some people over on the character.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like we talked about with the history thing, like by this point, when this movie comes out, I'm so done with Wolverine that like that's also part of why it never played for me too.
Well, I think I always bought the Hugh Jackman argument kind of hook, line, and sinker that he had never really gotten to that great Wolverine movie yet. Like I was waiting for some of the things that and a lot of it's tonal, but some of the places that movie goes with Wolverine in the same way as I was waiting for like Detective Batman on the big screen.
Yeah, I
It was
will
the same
say,
kind of thing, and the Wolverine got really close, and then that ending is a little silly and I imagine I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I imagine part of your issue with Logan is you wish it was more comic booky, and for whatever reason, I liked that it wasn't.
I mean, I
Like I was won over by
definitely
that.
like at this point, like I would say on a first viewing, I was more upset that because I love Old Man Logan and they adapt none of that. At this point, like I don't really care that much, but
Yeah.
on a first viewing, I was definitely like a little upset about that. But it's whatever. Like I can accept that it's its own thing. Um,
Well, don't get me wrong, I was too, and yet I still really appreciated what they made.
yeah,
But
for sure.
I wanted something closer to Old Man Logan also.
Yeah. What was I gonna say with
Sorry,
that?
sorry, sorry.
No, it's okay. I will say Logan is absolutely the best Wolverine movie. I think the best, like, if I were to say this is the best Wolverine's been in a solo movie, it's the opening of the Wolverine with like all the stuff with the bear when he's in the wilderness, and then the rest of that movie is kind of slop. But that like section is so good. That is to me is like the peak of Wolverine on film, solo wise.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah.
will say I don't know that Logan would have had the effect on me it did if it isn't for super tragic Professor X. And that's a place where I'm absolutely bringing like baggage and investment to it because
Mhm.
it's finally giving me the Wolverine I kind of always wanted while simultaneously um making up for the horrible thing we did to him in X3 to Professor X.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I was blindsided by that. Like I think some of it is like status quo choices and like world building choices where I love the bleak setup for that movie.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. Like I said, everything they do with the that main trinity is really good.
Yeah, but I mean that was enough for me. That's a lot of the movie.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's I like what they do with their characters, but not enough where I'm like, oh, this is really great, and then I think kind of everything else around them kind of sucks. Like it's got really lame villains. I wish that they did a little bit better than that, but that's whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess in my brain, and this sounds, I don't know, like I'm avoiding using the term real movie. Like this sounds real pretentious or whatever, but it was elevated past comic book thing to me, where like I wasn't thinking of it in terms of heroes and villains. And like, yeah, it has them. It's just it wasn't
Yeah,
that kind of a movie to me. Like
but
it was
if
much
they just
more like
moved away
revenge
from
thriller
that,
or something.
if
It just
they
wasn't even a superhero movie at that point.
if they just moved away from that, that would be fine. It's still too much in that formula, and I've always just resisted the. Not, I'm not being like, oh, boo, you use this term. This is just like an in general thing. I've always resisted that we tend to go to the real movie place whenever we drop any sense of being a comic book, and I don't know. I've never really liked that. Like we do that with Logan, we do that with Joker,
Yeah.
to a lesser degree, The Dark Knight, but like obviously that's more so in that realm. But I don't know, I've always kind of resisted that.
Yeah, when I feel hypocritical because I feel like I should resist it more than I do, and I feel like sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, and it's all
Mhm.
just real case by case, and it's hard to articulate why it sometimes bothers me and why sometimes I totally fall into that. But I do totally sometimes fall into that. I will admit that.
Yeah, no, yeah, and like I said, I'm not being like, oh, how dare you, but I don't know, that is a thing
Well, like I said, I mean, that's why I didn't want to say that because it's not.
because
I
it's
just can't
also like
articulate it. Like,
it falls into like the very I think kind of trend, and it's like the year before Black Panther, which literally, but like it's Black Panther versus another Black Panther. I've never liked the clone thing in Logan. I always thought that was super lame. And then the rest of the people in it are just generic scientists.
that is all true. I yeah, the clone thing should bother me more than it does.
I mean, a lot of people like it, and like fair enough, but I don't know. It's
It's
never
the one thing that
really
borders on
worked for
goofy
me.
to me a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, real quick, I'll throw out my last one for tonight. My 91. That's where we're at still, right? We talked about
Uh,
that for a while. My 91 is
yeah.
TMNT.
Oh, for a second, I thought you meant the '90s movie, and I was like, "What?"
No, it's
No,
because it's
that yeah,
called
yeah.
that. I wouldn't use the acronym now. There's a movie that uses the acronym.
But I'm not like a Turtles guy. Like I forget that movie exists half the
Well,
time.
that's fair. It it's somewhat unmemorable.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead and talk about it.
Oh, I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah. Uh, the main characters in it are all pretty good.
Yeah. No, it's I always thought it was really lame that, and obviously I've talked about this a lot, but that you've got such excellent characterizations for the turtles themselves, and then sort of like what you were complaining about with how you feel about Logan. It's just and also a movie with Patrick Stewart in it.
That is
Uh,
true. Except that's way more generic of an overall movie
it's
outside of its
it
leads.
is, yeah. But what I was gonna say is, yeah. It's such a generic villain. Uh, and another, like, you pulled the name out of a baby book, right? His name was like Alex Winter or something, or like something Winters. It's not
Oh.
Alex. I forget what his first name. It's something Winters. Uh, and it's a video game plot, and it's
Yep.
got Lawrence Fishburne explaining to you the video game plot at the beginning of the movie, and then that narration never comes back, and I have no idea why it's Lawrence Fishburne. But it opens, and Lawrence Fishburne is like, there were like 12 monsters, or how many monsters there were, and you gotta go get all the monsters. And I'm like, how's this a movie? This is
I
a
wish
video
that was
game plot.
specifically the opening. There was 12 monsters, or however many there were.
However many there
Who can
were.
count, really?
And the visual designs, like the animation in that movie is really pretty. Like it actually looks really good. Particularly all the stuff with the rain. There's some really nice storyboarding with some of the action sequences, but the actual designs for the turtles are a little bit odd. They're a little anorexic. Like I never liked the super thin necks in that movie.
It's almost like a more detailed 2012 show, isn't it? With how like they're just kind of very rail thin.
Uh, yeah, I mean,
Not that it's like literally that style, but I just mean like,
it actually looked closer to '03, which was just finishing
oh,
up
okay.
or done by that time, but in 3D, to the point where a lot of people thought initially it was going to be that same continuity, and they were just taking it from 2D to 3D. And it also felt like that show because it's got a Ninja April and a Casey Jones that is a lot like that Casey Jones, and they're just kind of in there, and there's no background or explanation for anything with them, so it in some ways feels like it's supposed to be connected to the live action movies, but then I don't know how that April got like that. So like it doesn't really make any sense. It's like now she's just going around and she's a ninja, and she looks like 15 years younger than she used to. And
oh, I just continued into getting new Aprils, but then she became very young.
yeah,
It's like a reverse Rachel Dawes.
that's where it gets real cartoony.
Yeah. I feel like that movie is a not great movie that is elevated by how good the Leo and Raph stuff is. Like
Yeah.
that is the big thing that's
What
movie
everybody remembers
really
from
well. Yeah, like everyone remembers the Raph in like the big metal suit in the rain when they're gonna fight on the roof.
Yeah, and that whole thing just got introduced in the comics and is getting its own series.
Oh, okay. Is that the like Jason Aaron stuff?
It's related to that because it's all IDW and it's still in the same continuity as it has been. We just relaunched, but
Oh, okay.
but no, Jason Aaron's doing the regular Ninja Turtles book, but then they're doing a side book that's called, I think it's called Night Watcher, and it's Raphael in that suit.
Sorry, I thought you meant like it showed up in the main series and they're like spinning it off into a
I'm assuming it showed
thing.
up somewhere first,
Yeah.
but I haven't
Okay.
been keeping up lately because I didn't like the previous writers. So
Oh, okay. Right on.
yeah, I haven't cared since Waltz left. I read the first 5 or 10 issues after that, and I just couldn't get into it.
Well, hopefully it picks up again.
Yeah, it's funny because I bought that first issue and I haven't read it yet.
Mhm.
I don't tend to read things month to month anymore. I tend to wait until there's more of it.
I've become really bad. Like I finally have monthly comics that I'm following, and I'll like get them all, and then at the end of the month I'll be like, oh, I gotta like catch up on all these comics I have, and then I like binge through all of them.
Well, that's all right. If I do buy singles, I just stack them up and then I eventually read it in digital. Like I never actually crack the physical book open anymore.
Yeah, no, and I'm collecting them digitally, but it's all
Oh, sure.
Skybound stuff. So
Jared says that roof fight has become iconic. Yeah, and that's the one big iconic thing from it. And like all by itself makes it kind of deserving of being on the list.
definitely. And then your next one is, of course, Out of the Shadows.
Right, naturally, of course. Well, how do you not include a movie that's got Krang like punching himself back into his robot body? You got to have that.
And it's got the best Bebop and Rocksteady, where they're just constantly walking around and be like, "My man."
Yeah, and the worst Casey Jones.
Yes, undeniably the worst Casey Jones.
What were they thinking? Well, anyway, we're going to go ahead and get going, folks. But thanks a lot for watching, and we'll be back with another one of these hopefully next week. We'll do this as often as we can until we finish up our list. Austin, I think it's going to be like this. I think probably 10 is about the most we can hope for.
We technically only got 9.
Wait, really?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, no, we did get 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how numbers work, because we did we did number 100. That's why I ended at 91. Because if we did 90, we would do 11.
I'm being dumb. Okay, I'm being Wolverine.
Look, I'm telling you, I can do that kind of math.
I don't know. It's also hard to tell on my list because I have Long Halloween Part 1 and 2 there.
Oh, I
so
see.
It's like
Yeah.
it throws off the number too. And I suck at math.
Well, I'll just throw you a cliffhanger and say everyone will be absolutely, completely shocked and dismayed at my number 90.
And my number 90 won't be as funny when it's separated from. By the way, Logan was my 91, so I'll have to make sure on the next one to start with, just so you guys remember. Logan was my number 90.
What would be really funny is if we said them right now, but we didn't actually talk about them until next time. I don't want to do that though.
No, because then we're just gonna end up talking about them.
Yeah, and we'll get crap from people all week long until we finally come back.
Yep.
Like, why'd you pick that? Well, you just have to wait and watch the show. That'd be such a weird cliffhanger for a list show.
That would be weird. Yeah, it's like, here's my ranking. But
Or if you went like next time on, and then you just said
you just
the name
quickly
of it.
said the next 10.
We just spoil them all.
That'd be great.
That's a great idea. Well, anyway, thanks a lot for watching, folks, and we'll see you again real soon. Austin and I are going to be back for the commentary project on Friday, and we're going to talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So look forward to that, and in the meantime, I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin the Day Ghost.
Goodbye, everybody that unsubscribed. Don't forget to submit your lists at some point.
Yes, please do that. Like I said, you got some time. You got a few weeks, but start thinking about it. Start deciding what it's going to be.
At least like 2 months, probably. But get it in there.
We'll see you later, folks. Bye, everybody.